CEO entered the wrong room at a luxury hotel and was shocked by what he saw. But before we dive into the full story, let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, subscribe to the channel and let's get started. A storm of camera flashes and excited chatter filled the gilded lobby of the Royal Solaris Hotel, one of the most exclusive in the city. Influential business magnates, investors, and reporters fought for prime positions as luxury cars pulled up to the entrance, each one delivering a distinguished guest. In the midst of this whirlwind, the renowned CEO, Adam Rochester, stepped out of a sleek, black limousine. His tailored suit and calm composure gave him the polished look of a man who believed he was in complete control. Little did he know that within the hour his entire world would be flipped upside down by a single fateful mistake. Moments after arriving, Adam swept through the lobby, politely greeting a few industry allies and receiving the same question from each one. "What's the big announcement you're making this weekend?" With a knowing smile, he only responded, "You'll see." A monumental investment round was about to be revealed, one that would cement Adam's place among the most powerful figures in the corporate world. This event was a golden opportunity for his company, Rochester Innovations, a chance to dazzle potential investors and push its global expansion plan. Yet behind his confident aura lingered a faint tension. For months, Adam had fought to overcome boardroom politics and sabotage attempts by rival executives. Even certain shareholders from his own company seemed less than thrilled with the direction he wanted to take. Rumors whispered that some of them preferred to remove Adam entirely, hoping to install a more controllable figurehead in his place. Even so, Adam believed in his vision, and he was prepared to defend it at all costs. Bypassing the hotel's grand foyer, he checked in at reception. The concierge politely handed him a gold-embossed key card. "Penthouse suite, top floor," said the young clerk with a respectful bow. Adam nodded, mentally rehearsing the speech he'd deliver to high-profile investors that very evening. As the elevator rose, the hush of the halls replaced the glitz downstairs. With each passing floor, Adam felt his pulse slow. He was above the crowds, above the chaos, metaphorically and literally. He had no idea that a very different chaos awaited him just beyond the door he was about to open. He slid the key card, and the door's lock whirred. Stepping inside, Adam immediately sensed something was off. The decor was more modest than he expected. A simple table partially covered with sketches, a suitcase leaning against the couch, and toy cars scattered across the floor. He froze, scanning the place in confusion. This couldn't be the penthouse that the hotel had promised him. He had stayed in one of their top suites before, and it had been all crystal chandeliers and sumptuous upholstery. Now, an eerie silence pressed in around him, broken only by the muffled hum of the city outside. "Hello?" he called out, suspecting he'd walked into the wrong room. Before he could turn back to the hallway, the suite's bedroom doors swung open, and there she was, Isabella Carter, a talented jewelry designer who had once worked at Rochester Innovations and vanished abruptly 2 years ago. She held a stack of designs against her chest, her eyes widening in pure disbelief. The awkward tension between them was immediate. Neither of them moved or spoke. They simply stared, Isabella's gaze flicking from Adam's startled face to the key card in his hand. "Adam?" she whispered finally, her voice a mixture of shock and a faint tinge of resentment. He slowly lowered the key, words stuck in his throat. An avalanche of questions formed in his mind. What was she doing in a luxury suite at this hotel on the same weekend of his investor event? And why had she disappeared from his company 2 years earlier, right when she seemed on the verge of a major breakthrough with her own jewelry line? But before Adam could voice these questions, he noticed 2 small heads peeking from behind Isabella's legs, twin boys with the same striking green eyes as his. Time seemed to stand still as he realized the children were looking directly at him. A swirl of recognition and disbelief hit him like a tidal wave. His professional composure shattered in an instant, and for a moment he forgot all about his event, his grand announcement, and the empire he had built. Isabella lowered her eyes, pressing her lips together as if bracing herself for the storm that would inevitably erupt. She guided the children forward gently, so they stood beside her. Confusion flooded Adam's features. He'd never known Isabella to have children, let alone twins that looked so hauntingly familiar. He glimpsed a trembling in her hands. In that split second, Adam recalled hushed rumors from years ago, office gossip about a secret romance, and Isabella's abrupt resignation after a confidential project that had brought them closer than either wanted to admit at the time. "What is this?" he finally managed, voice low and unsteady. The twins clung to Isabella's skirt, eyes alert, curious, and a little frightened. They couldn't have been more than 4 or 5 years old. The silence weighed heavy, each second more agonizing than the last. Isabella, with effort, found the courage to speak. "They're yours, Adam." With those 3 words, every carefully planned piece of Adam Rochester's life threatened to collapse. This was not just an old flame standing in a random hotel room. This was a woman he once cherished, someone who had shared his dreams, his struggles, and apparently carried a secret that shattered everything he thought he knew about his past. Instantly, a cascade of memories rushed back. The late nights finalizing jewelry prototypes, the mutual admiration they had, one that blurred the lines between boss and employee. He remembered the swirl of scandal rumors, the tension in the boardroom, and the heartbreak he felt when she left without a real explanation. Stunned, Adam barely registered the beep of his phone as notifications from the PR team flashed. Final calls about investor arrivals, last-minute itinerary changes, urgent demands for an official statement. All of that, so important mere minutes ago, was overshadowed by the presence of Isabella and these 2 silent children clinging to her. The air was thick with suppressed emotions and unspoken history. Before Adam could speak, a series of pounding knocks on the door caused Isabella to jump. A voice demanded, "Security! Open up!" It seemed the front desk had realized the mix-up, or perhaps someone had recognized Adam stepping into the wrong suite. Isabella looked at him, her eyes pleading, as if begging him not to let the entire corridor discover what was happening within these walls. 1,000 questions collided in Adam's mind. Why was Isabella here of all places? Who else knew about the twins? Was someone else behind their presence in the same hotel where his high-stakes event was taking place? And most pressing of all, what did this mean for the empire he'd built? An empire that, until this moment, he believed he could shield from scandal? Isabella reached out and touched Adam's arm gently. Her expression was a swirl of sorrow, regret, and a faint flicker of hope. He could barely hear the security staff calling for them to unlock the door. It was as though the roar of his own thoughts drowned everything else. In that instant, Adam realized that he had stumbled into something far more treacherous than a mere wrong room. He had entered a new reality, one that would test not only his business acumen but also his capacity for honesty, compassion, and the willingness to protect the family he never knew he had. Adam's heart thumped against his chest while the pounding on the door grew louder. Security wasn't going anywhere until they confirmed exactly why an unexpected guest, especially one as high-profile as the CEO of Rochester Innovations, had wandered into the wrong suite. Meanwhile, Isabella stood very still, hands trembling as she tried to keep the twins calm. Though just a moment ago they'd looked shy and unsure, the children now clung to her legs, eyes darting between Adam and the door in alarm. In a single glance, Adam took in Isabella's worried face, the nearly identical features of the twins that matched his own, and the squeak of the door handle as hotel staff tried to open it from outside. There wasn't time to sort through all the questions exploding in his mind, about the children, about Isabella's abrupt departure from his company, about their complicated past. He motioned for Isabella to remain quiet, pressing a finger to his lips. The last thing he wanted was to create a spectacle in the hallway, attracting attention from the media, other investors, or worse, members of his own board who might be nearby. He slowly unlocked the door, slipping through the narrow opening to meet the concerned stares of 2 hotel security guards and a manager in a sharp black suit. Cameras were nowhere in sight yet, thankfully. "Mr. Rochester," said one of the guards in a respectful but firm tone, "we had a report of someone entering the wrong room. Are you all right?" Adam mustered his most composed voice, the same he would use in a board meeting. "All fine, gentlemen. My assistant gave me the wrong key. I stepped into this suite by mistake. Simple mix-up. I'll sort it out at the front desk." He offered a thin, polite smile, hoping to dismiss them quickly. The hotel manager frowned, arms folded. "Are you certain, sir? I can confirm the correct suite if you'd like." Adam's smile tightened. He was aware he couldn't appear flustered. If these men sensed anything amiss, they might push further, invite more staff, or even call the press. "I'd prefer to handle it myself," Adam replied tersely. "I have a big event to prepare for, and my time is limited." His gaze flicked to the floor as though to indicate the conversation was already over. There was a tense pause, but the manager only nodded. "Very well, sir. Let us know if you need anything." The guard stepped aside, and Adam slipped back into the suite, bolting the door behind him. Through the peephole, he watched the trio retreat down the hallway. When he turned around, Isabella was still in the center of the living area, the twins beside her. A toy race car, clearly one of the children's favorites, lay by her feet. The younger boy fiddled nervously with the hem of his t-shirt, seeming to sense the heaviness in the air. Adam glanced again at the twins. The weight of what Isabella had said, "They're yours, Adam," punched through him like a hammer. Part of him still refused to believe it, yet looking at the children's faces, he recognized pieces of himself. The same arch of the eyebrows, the same slightly upturned nose. Another memory blindsided him. Late nights working with Isabella on a specialized watch design 2 years ago, the quiet jokes they shared, the tension in the air whenever their eyes met. They never came out and called what they had a relationship. Too many rules, too many obstacles. But there was an undeniable spark. Then, just as swiftly, she had vanished. Adam took a measured breath. "How old are they?" he asked, voice subdued. "4," Isabella answered quietly, her shoulders hunched as though expecting judgment. "They turned 4 a month ago." The math in Adam's head was merciless. 4 years ago, he had indeed spent long nights working side by side with Isabella. Their closeness escalated for a few intense weeks, and then came the tension with the board, the office rumors, the hush-hush projects. His stomach turned. "Why didn't you ever tell me? Why vanish?" Tears brimmed in Isabella's eyes, but she kept her voice firm. "I tried, Adam. I left letters for you, messages, but your phone number changed after that fiasco with the shareholders. Then your chief of operations threatened me. He said that if I pushed to contact you, I'd jeopardize not only my career but also yours. And after everything you had on your shoulders, I just—" She broke off, brushing a tear away with the back of her hand. "I was also angry. Resentful, maybe. It was complicated. So I left." Adam paled. He had suspected certain board members might stoop to underhanded tactics, but he never imagined they would manipulate personal matters to sabotage him. As the realization sank in, a cold fury crept over him. "Did my chief of operations mention the children?" Isabella swallowed hard. "He said that revealing any scandal would end your chance at fully taking control of Rochester Innovations, and after I saw how determined you were to prove yourself as CEO, I convinced myself the best thing was to protect you and protect my babies." She lowered her gaze as though bracing for him to lash out. Instead, Adam just stood there, a tumult of emotion behind a silent stare. In a fragile moment of shared acknowledgement, the older twin stepped forward. "Mommy?" he asked timidly. "Are we in trouble?" Adam's eyes softened and he tried to find the right words. "Of course not," Isabella said. picking him up while gently patting the younger boy's head. "Nobody's in trouble. It's okay." Watching her with the children, Adam was struck by an intense wave of regret. He'd missed 4 birthdays, 4 years of first steps, first words, an entire universe of experiences. And while business had consumed his every waking moment, culminating in him standing at the brink of a major investor deal this very weekend, he'd been living completely unaware of his own sons. A moment later, Adam's phone buzzed, startling them all. The screen read, "Urgent. Board member Stefan wants an immediate meeting." In a reflex, Adam tapped to read the incoming message. "Our main investors have arrived early. We need you in the Astoria conference room in 15 minutes. Non-negotiable." Adam's jaw tightened. "I have to go handle something," he muttered, more to himself than anyone else. If he failed to show up now, the entire project he'd spent months orchestrating might implode. Then again, if he left Isabella and the twins like this, how would they interpret that? He sensed Isabella reading the conflict in his eyes. She gave a tentative nod. "Go," she said, voice subdued. "They're expecting you. We're not going anywhere." The practicality of her words didn't ease the knot in his chest. Part of him wanted to say, "Wait for me at the penthouse I was supposed to have," but he worried that instructing her to move suites in such a public way could tip off prying eyes. The paparazzi had a habit of swarming big events, and news like CEO's former employee and surprise kids appear at luxury hotel would not only be scandalous but also potentially lethal to his fragile negotiations. "Stay here," Adam finally decided, glancing around the modest living area. "I'll figure out a safer arrangement once I'm done." He paused, stuffing his hands into his pockets as he tried to keep his composure. "We'll talk, I promise." Before he could overthink it, Adam spun on his heel and marched out. He breezed past the same front desk clerk from earlier, offering a curt request to confirm his proper suite was now ready for him. The clerk, flustered by the confusion, apologized profusely, as if that were the biggest problem Adam faced. If only the clerk knew. In the elevator ride down, Adam stared at his reflection in the polished brass walls. The face that stared back appeared more tired and burdened than ever. He'd come here expecting to wow his shareholders and close a record-breaking investment. But now, a greater priority had surfaced. The existence of 2 little boys, his little boys, complicated everything, not only personally, but also in terms of corporate intrigue. He recognized that if his enemies discovered this secret, they would absolutely use it to threaten or control him. As the elevator opened on the conference floor, Adam slipped through the throng of delegates converging for the event. Already, some turned their heads. "There he is," anticipating major news. Cameras flashed and business elites in tailored suits gave polite nods. Adam forced a tight-lipped smile, disguising the shock that still gripped him. He entered the Grand Astoria conference room where Stefan, along with key shareholders, sat perched at a circular table. They looked up, a silent expectation in their eyes. Adam cleared his throat, determined to compartmentalize, at least temporarily. "Good morning," he began, projecting the unwavering confidence of a Fortune 500 leader. "I hear you're anxious for an update. Let's get started, shall we?" He took his seat at the head of the table, ignoring the suspicious glances from Stefan. The sharp pang of dread lodged in his stomach. He needed to power through this meeting, deliver his pitch, and secure the investment. Only then would he be free to handle what truly mattered, reconnecting with Isabella and, most importantly, discovering how to protect his children in a cutthroat world that would undoubtedly seize upon any vulnerability to take him down. In the back of his mind, Adam wondered if Isabella was safe upstairs. He imagined her in that quiet suite, struggling to keep the twins occupied, haunted by the fear of what might happen if her presence leaked. Smoothing his tie, Adam resolved to ensure that no matter the cost, he would not fail them again. An hour later, Adam found himself perched at the edge of a leather armchair, watching row upon row of impeccably dressed potential investors settle into their seats. The hotel's grand ballroom glimmered under crystal chandeliers. Everything was arranged to impress. From the refined floral centerpieces to the custom-printed pamphlets featuring Rochester Innovations' latest accomplishments, no detail had been overlooked. But as Adam tapped his fingers on the presentation remote, he couldn't quite quell the storm in his mind. He'd spent years perfecting the art of compartmentalization, methodically pushing aside personal distractions whenever business demanded his focus. Yet Isabella and the twins had shattered that mental firewall. A relentless drumbeat of questions reverberated inside him. How would his board react if they discovered his secret children? Would Isabella be safe from prying eyes, or from those in his organization who had no moral qualms about using personal information as leverage? Adam's smartphone buzzed again, the screen lighting up with a text from Stefan. "Need a word after your pitch." Stefan was one of the oldest shareholders in Rochester Innovations, respected for his business acumen but notorious for his ruthless, old-school approach. Adam suspected Stefan might already have heard rumors of something unusual. Perhaps the front desk confusion. Perhaps sightings of him entering the wrong suite. The man was famously well-connected, with an uncanny knack for sniffing out secrets. A chill of apprehension went through Adam, but he had no choice except to go on stage. With a gracious nod to the event coordinator, Adam stepped behind the podium. The hush that fell was immediate. This was the big announcement everyone anticipated, a new technology partnership, rumored to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Dozens of cameras from the national press were poised to capture his every word and gesture. Adam forced a confident smile as he began, "Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed colleagues and valued partners, I'm honored to welcome you." His voice flowed with practiced ease, describing a state-of-the-art energy storage solution developed by Rochester Innovations. Applause peppered his speech as he explained how the breakthroughs would revolutionize markets and open the door to fresh investment streams. If he succeeded, this deal would overshadow all the political scheming on his board, possibly even keep the press enthralled enough to ignore smaller personal dramas. At least that was Adam's hope. After concluding his pitch and gliding through a short Q&A, he stepped down to polite clapping, relieved that he'd navigated the first major hurdle of the weekend. Various investors hurried up to greet him, offering congratulations. Adam responded with polite handshakes, his polished smile never faltering. But as the crowd thinned, Stefan approached, lips pressed in a tight line, eyes keen. "Adam," he murmured, steering the younger man to a quieter corner of the ballroom. "Well done. The board will be pleased." Then a pause, just long enough to make Adam uneasy. "I heard about the little mishap with your suite. The front desk told me you ended up walking into the wrong room." Adam met Stefan's stare without blinking. "Some booking confusion. Nothing that can't be sorted out. Is that all?" Stefan's tone was as casual as a snake uncoiling. Funny how these mistakes seem to happen at crucial moments. You know how the press loves a scandal, any scandal, especially when they smell vulnerability. A flush of anger crept into Adam's face, but he forced himself to remain composed. "As I said, it's handled. I won't allow trivial mishaps to derail our company's biggest announcement in years." Stefan's smile was thin and knowing, as if he could see far more than he let on. "I'm glad to hear it, because, as you're aware, some of us on the board have concerns. If there's anything you need to share, anything that might jeopardize the next phase of Rochester Innovations, better we hear it now from you, before rumors spread." Adam resisted the impulse to step back. Stefan was more than a shareholder. He was a man with powerful connections, the kind who'd once given Adam a chance to rise. But trust in corporate circles was a fleeting currency, and Adam sensed the warning in Stefan's words. "I assure you," Adam said quietly, "my personal life won't interfere with the company." Stefan nodded, expression blank. Then he gave Adam's shoulder a deliberate squeeze. "Excellent. Now let's close that new round of funding, shall we?" As Stefan drifted away, Adam exhaled slowly. He wished he could rush right upstairs to check on Isabella and the children. But first, He had to meet with a cluster of venture capitalists who'd flown in specifically for his pitch. Skipping that would look suspicious and could drive them away. He rearranged his features into a welcoming smile, beckoned the investors over, and launched into small talk. Every now and then, though, he caught Stefan's gaze from across the room. He had the distinct impression that Stefan wasn't done, that some deeper confrontation loomed. Meanwhile, upstairs in the modest suite, Isabella gathered the twins at the small dining table. Over the last year, she had saved enough to rent her own modest apartment in another state, carefully keeping her real address under wraps. In an effort to build her design career, she'd traveled city to city, meeting potential patrons and occasionally landing freelance jobs. But the big break she yearned for, a chance to showcase her jewelry to the right investor, had never come. Now that she was here, ironically, the man who once championed her talents was the one person she was terrified to face. Her eyes drifted to a folder resting on the corner of the table. Sketches of delicate necklaces, bracelets with shimmering gemstones. It was her new collection, the one she hoped might attract a major investor this very weekend. But with everything that had happened, Adam's sudden reappearance, the fear that overshadowed her, she didn't know if she'd find the courage to pitch her designs. Worse yet, hints of intimidation had followed her to this hotel. Since she arrived, suspicious calls came in at odd hours. A note had been slipped under her door 2 nights ago that simply read, "Stop meddling, or else." She tried to push those worries aside as the twins munched on snacks. They were excited to be in a new place, blissfully unaware of the complicated grown-up matters swirling around them. The older boy played with the toy race car again, vrooming it across the table's edge. The younger one tapped a pencil on Isabella's sketches. "Why are your drawings so sparkly, Mommy?" She managed a gentle smile. "Because I use gemstones, sweetheart. Remember how I told you I design beautiful things for people to wear?" He grinned, brightening the room in an instant. "Will you make a pretty necklace for me, too?" Warmth flooded Isabella's heart. "I promise," she said softly. After a beat, she glanced at the clock, anxiety creeping back. Adam had promised he'd return soon, but what if he was tied up all evening? A knock at the door startled her. She froze, heart hammering. When the knock came again, she lifted the chain and opened the door only a crack. To her relief, she saw a familiar face. A friend from her time at Rochester Innovations, Lucy Dawson, who now worked as a freelance event coordinator. Lucy had apparently discovered Isabella's name on the hotel registry and hastened over. "Isabella?" Lucy whispered, eyeing the partially open door. "I can't believe you're here. Do you have any idea how many people are talking about some weird fiasco on your floor? Something about the CEO mixing up keys. Wait." She stopped as she spotted 2 little heads peeking out behind Isabella. "Oh, is that—" Isabella's cheeks warmed. She stepped aside to let Lucy in, shutting the door quickly behind them. "Yes, my twins. Lucy, please keep it down. Nobody knows they belong to Adam. Not yet, at least." Eyes wide, Lucy shrugged off her jacket. "Well, you know half the board members are already sniffing around for any angle to undermine Adam's new deal. They'd love some scandal. Are you safe? Why are you in the same hotel as him?" She glanced at the children, her voice dropping. "You know what they'll do if they find out?" "I had no clue he'd be staying here," Isabella confessed. My plan was to present my jewelry designs to some prospective buyers. We arrived early, got a discounted suite through a friend, then everything got turned on its head when Adam showed up. And Lucy," her voice quivered, "I've been getting threats." Lucy pressed her lips into a thin line. "So the rumors were true. Some board members or maybe outside rivals are stirring up trouble, but threats involving kids? That's low. You can't face this alone. The question is, does Adam know the twins are his?" Isabella nodded, tears brimming. "Yes, he does now. I kept it hidden for so long. Thought I was protecting them, protecting him. But it seems like everything's exploding at once." Lucy placed a reassuring hand on Isabella's shoulder. Okay, first, you need to watch your back. Don't leave the hotel without letting someone know. If you're serious about pitching your designs this weekend, I can help you connect with the right people, but let's be careful. If someone is threatening you, they might be threatened by your potential success, or by the personal scandal they fear could blow up, or both. Isabella swallowed. The note said not to meddle. Could that be about me reconnecting with Adam? Or about something else like my designs? Lucy frowned. Could be both. Some folks might want to keep Adam's personal life quiet to maintain his squeaky clean image, at least until the new investment deal is signed. Another angle. Maybe this is a competitor who wants to sabotage your jewelry pitch. Either way, you're in the crossfire. The twins, sensing the tension, grew quiet. Isabella crouched down and stroked their hair. The overwhelming guilt of dragging them into this storm pressed down hard. She could almost feel eyes on her, waiting for a misstep. Lucy, do you think Adam is in real danger, or is it just me? Lucy paused. Adam isn't exactly popular with certain factions. He's pushing bold changes within Rochester Innovations, and we both know some board members despise losing control. If they discover the twins, they could try blackmail. If they discover your location, they might do worse. I think for your own safety, you should talk to Adam again. You two need to coordinate a plan. A swirl of emotions churned in Isabella's chest. She nodded reluctantly. You're right. I can't keep him in the dark about the threats. Quieting her panic, Isabella walked Lucy to the door, grateful for her friend's visit. Let me know if you hear any rumors, she said softly, pressing Lucy's hand. And please, be discreet. Always, Lucy promised, stepping into the hallway. Stay safe and call me if you need anything. When the door closed, Isabella pressed her forehead against it, shutting her eyes. She knew Lucy was right. She had to involve Adam. He was the children's father, after all, and if some dangerous elements were swirling, he needed to know precisely what they were up against. As she turned back to the twins, she resolved to be strong, no matter how uncertain the future seemed. Down in the hotel restaurant, Adam finished a final round of investor greetings. An hour had passed, and he could no longer stand being away. He excused himself from the lingering well-wishers, ignoring Stefan's watchful glare. Making his way to the elevator, he felt the weight of everything that might await him. If the board learned about the children, how many would see it as a chance to manipulate him? Could the entire reason Isabella reappeared on this particular weekend be a setup? Pushing those thoughts aside, Adam stepped off on the same floor where he'd made his shocking discovery. His pulse quickened. He wanted answers from Isabella, but he also needed to keep her and their twins safe. As he reached her door, he raised a hand to knock, then hesitated. The last time he stood here, he'd stumbled on a new reality. What further revelations would come when she opened up? Gathering his resolve, he gave 2 short knocks. The door inched open, revealing Isabella's anxious face. In that moment, Adam knew there would be no going back. Whatever they faced now, threats, blackmail, sabotage, they would have to face it together. Isabella offered Adam a faint, nervous smile and stepped back to let him in. The twins, sensing a change in the air, stopped chasing each other around the coffee table. They gazed at Adam curiously, as though piecing him into their world bit by bit. Unease prickled through the room, like the air before a thunderstorm. The swirl of tension and possibility made Adam's chest tighten. He had come brimming with questions, unspoken demands even. But as soon as he saw Isabella's weary face laced with genuine concern, his frustration eased. She stood there in rumpled jeans and a simple blouse, her sketches strewn on the table. The twins clutched half-eaten crackers, eyeing him with matching stares. Adam forced a calming breath. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. "Did anyone bother you while I was gone?" Isabella hesitated. She glanced at the children, then beckoned Adam to follow her a few steps away, out of earshot. "I had a friend visit Lucy. She warned me. The board is definitely on alert. She also said some suspicious people have been poking around the hotel, and I've been receiving threats, notes, calls at odd hours. He clenched his jaw, eyes flashing with anger. Threats? Since when? For a few weeks, she admitted, voice low and taut. I didn't connect it to anything specific until I arrived here. They keep telling me to stay quiet, not to stir up trouble. I was worried it was a rival designer trying to scare me away from pitching my jewelry. But now, she cast a glance at the twins, who had resumed their playful chatter. Now I think it might be connected to you, or to the fact that we share these children. Adam's stomach turned with a rush of guilt and indignation. This was precisely the scenario he had tried so hard to avoid, letting innocent people get sucked into the corporate power games surrounding Rochester Innovations. I'm sorry, he managed, rawness creeping into his voice. If you'd told me earlier. Her eyes flickered with hurt. It's not that simple, Adam. You'd already fought so hard to gain control of the company. I feared revealing the twins would only give your enemies ammunition, and I was scared. After that day your chief of operations found out, he warned me that if I ever tried to use the children to claim money or come after you, he'd ruin my reputation, possibly yours. So I ran. Adam silently cursed the cutthroat culture that had wormed its way into his own organization. He wanted to promise Isabella he'd shield her from every threat, but the memory of Stefan's cryptic remarks reminded him that promises might not be enough. Listen, he said, we need a plan. Some way to protect you and the kids. This weekend is critical for me. If I secure the new deal, I'll have the leverage to overhaul the board and push out anyone behind these tactics. She nodded, worry etched on her face. What do you propose? First, I'll have you move to a safer suite, one under a different name, or maybe a private residence affiliated with the hotel, something not so easy to trace. He paused, scanning the living area cluttered with the twins' toys. And we'll request some extra security, quietly. Extra security? Isabella repeated, a flash of concern crossing her features. Adam, I don't want the children to feel like prisoners. I know. We'll make it discreet, but I can't risk leaving you without protection. If these threats escalate. He swallowed, not wanting to voice the rest. A swirl of emotions surfaced. The paternal need to protect, the guilt of not having been there for them before, and the frustration of corporate enemies prowling in the shadows. Her gaze flickered with vulnerability. All right, discreet security, but nothing that looks like bodyguards looming over us. The twins already sense something's off. I don't want them frightened. Adam accepted that condition with a small nod. His eyes strayed to the sketches on the table. Lucy said you're here to pitch your collection? Isabella sighed. Yes, that was the plan, before life got complicated again. It's a new line of jewelry, my best designs yet. If I can impress the right investor, I could secure a partnership or sponsorship. But under the circumstances, I'm not sure if— Do it, Adam interrupted gently. Don't let these bullies steal your moment. You've worked hard, and after what they've done, to you, to our kids, they don't deserve to push you into hiding. She studied his face, a flicker of gratitude and something softer glimmering in her eyes. I appreciate that, she said, voice trembling with emotion. I was afraid you'd think I'd come to sabotage your event by showing up with this secret. A pang of regret shot through Adam. I never thought that. I wish I'd known sooner, but I do understand you were trying to protect me too. The room fell silent except for the children squealing as they raced miniature cars along the edges of the sofa. Adam allowed himself a moment to simply take it all in. The tiny giggles, the scattered sketches, Isabella's anxious presence. So many years he'd poured his energy into building an empire, never imagining a family could wait for him on the sidelines. Softly, he turned to the twins. Hey, you two. They looked up, uncertain. Come here for a second. The older boy carefully placed his toy car aside, leading his brother by the hand until they stood before him. He crouched to their height, heart thundering. The swirl of corporate drama and intimidation faded momentarily. I'm Adam, he began, voice shaky with sudden emotion. I used to work with your mom a long time ago. I'm so glad to meet you guys. He paused, searching for the right words. I missed a lot, but if you'll let me, I'd like to be here now. The boys exchanged a cautious glance. Then the younger one stepped forward, a small, shy smile creeping onto his face. Do you have cars, too? The question nearly brought tears to Adam's eyes. He gave a soft laugh. I do. Not as cool as yours, but maybe we can find something together. Would you like that? A nod. A sense of relief swept over Adam like a wave. Isabella watched, eyes shining, and Adam realized that in all the complexity of power plays and conspiracies, this might be the most important moment of his life. Then the landline phone rang, slicing through the tender calm. Isabella tensed, and Adam rose, stepping towards the desk. The hotel phone was typically for housekeeping requests or front desk inquiries. That made an unexpected call worrisome. He lifted the receiver. Hello? Silence hummed for several beats. Then a distorted voice spoke. You don't belong there, Mr. CEO. Neither does she. Pack up and walk away while you still can, or everything you've built goes down in flames. And if the public learns about those twins... The line went dead. Adam's hand clenched around the receiver. He set it down carefully, turning to Isabella, who saw the color drained from his face. She knew, without him even repeating the words, that something ominous had just been whispered into his ear. Her lips formed a tense line. Who was it? Some coward using a voice modulator, Adam muttered darkly. He looked at the children, then stepped closer to Isabella. We have to be very cautious. This is bigger than a hotel suite confusion. They're threatening to destroy everything unless we... Stop meddling, Isabella finished softly, recalling the note she had received. Adam, I'm scared. He reached out, gently holding her elbow. I know, but we'll confront it head on. Now, let me handle the security arrangement. No one's forcing us to leave. I won't let them. And if they want to escalate this, they can face me directly. Yet even as he spoke, Adam felt a knot of dread tighten in his stomach. He couldn't shake the sense that a network of shadowy forces, some inside his own company, others with unknown motives, was weaving a trap around them. Every moment threatened new surprises. He thought of Stefan, the cunning glint in the old man's eyes. Others on the board, each with their own angles. Rival corporations, profit-hungry opportunists. They had always targeted Adam, but now he had a fresh vulnerability. Two small children who needed his protection. Determination flared inside him. He guided Isabella to sit with him on the sofa, the children plunking down on her lap. For a second, they looked almost like a normal family bracing themselves for an uncertain future. Listen, Adam said, voice firm. I'll arrange for a staff member I trust, someone who can relocate you to a suite booked under a code name. While that's happening, I'll stay near you. If you want to present your designs, Lucy can help coordinate, but we'll keep it under the radar to avoid more suspicion. Isabella took a trembling breath. Yes, okay, she replied. I want to proceed with the pitch, but only if it won't put the children at greater risk. Adam squeezed her hand lightly, ignoring the flicker of his heart at the contact. We'll handle it in a way that draws minimal attention. Then, once this investor weekend is done, I'm pulling out all the stops to find out who's threatening us. A small voice interjected, Are you staying for dinner, Mr. Adam? The older twin blinked hopefully, apparently charmed by Adam's resolve. Adam's tension eased into a gentle smile. You know what? I'll do my best. But first, I have to make a few calls. He stood, pressing a kiss to the top of the boy's head. Turning to Isabella, he whispered, Hold on just a little while longer. We're in this together now. Stepping out into the hallway, Adam dialed a number on his phone. With each ring, he steeled himself. It was time to marshal every ally he could trust, because the countdown had begun. If these anonymous threats were real, and all signs pointed that way, he was prepared to do whatever it took to keep Isabella and the twins safe. And if that meant going to war with an entire network of conspirators in his orbit, so be it. Adam paced the carpeted hotel corridor, phone pressed to his ear as he tried to reach the one person he believed would stand by him when corporate politics turned lethal. Raymond Beck, a security expert and former detective. Beck had handled sensitive threats before, quietly sweeping them under the radar of public attention. Adam prayed he could do the same now, for Isabella and the children. After several rings, the line finally clicked. "Beck here." "Ray, it's Adam. I need help, fast," Adam said, pressing a palm against the wall as a passing guest glanced at him curiously. "Not the usual corporate infiltration or data theft, something personal, real threats, possibly from inside my own circle. I need discreet protection for someone at the Royal Solaris Hotel." Beck paused. Adam could hear the tension in his inhale. "Give me details." "Can't over the phone," Adam admitted, "but I'll text you an address near the hotel. Meet me there in an hour. We'll figure out next steps." "Understood," Beck replied. "I'll be there." He hung up, and Adam's shoulders eased slightly. He returned to Isabella's door with renewed determination. Upon entering, he noted the twins had settled on the couch, leafing through a picture book, while Isabella gently rubbed her temples. She looked up, hope mingled with fatigue in her eyes. "Everything okay?" "I've got someone I trust coming," Adam explained. "He's an independent security contractor not tied to Rochester Innovations. I'll meet him soon. In the meantime, let's get you moved, quietly. The hotel manager owes me a favor. Once you're settled in a more secure suite, I want you to rest." Isabella nodded. "What about you? Don't you have more meetings?" A flicker of frustration crossed Adam's face. "I do. That's the worst part. These next few hours are crucial for the big investment deal. But the moment Beck arrives, I'll make sure you're safe. Then I'll juggle the rest. If any board members ask questions, well, I'll handle them." Isabella hesitated, fiddling with a ring on her finger. "I just worry about the children in the middle of all this. They sense our stress. And these threats? Someone might try to use them as leverage." Adam's jaw tightened. "Not if I can help it." They swiftly packed up Isabella's sketches, the twins' clothes, and the few personal items scattered about. It all fit into 2 roller bags and a small backpack for the children's toys. Watching them gather their limited belongings, Adam felt an unexpected pang. He'd spent a fortune over the years building his brand, owning lavish homes, but Isabella had apparently scraped by on her own, raising twins he never knew about. A sense of responsibility weighed on him like a boulder. He escorted them to a staff-only corridor, bypassing the main lobby to avoid prying eyes. One of the concierges, discreetly informed by Adam, guided them up a back elevator to a secluded suite on a higher floor. The door swung open to reveal a cozy living area with floor-to-ceiling windows offering a panoramic view of the city skyline. A comfortable bedroom lay just beyond. Adam helped the twins settle, making sure the curtains were drawn. Isabella stood at the window for a moment, silently taking in the flickering lights of skyscrapers. "Feels a bit surreal," she murmured. "I promise this is safer," Adam said. He checked his watch. "I have to go meet Beck. Once we talk strategy, I'll come back up. Then tomorrow, you should show your jewelry designs to the potential backers, if you're up for it." She forced a small, grateful smile. "I've dreamed of an opportunity like this. I just never thought it would happen under such pressure." Adam brushed a hand gently against hers. "We'll make it happen. Just promise me you'll lock this door. Call the front desk if anyone tries to contact you. I'll let them know only to connect certain calls." Isabella swallowed her anxiety, nodding. "Yes, and Adam, be careful. Always," he replied. As he turned to leave, the older twin ran up, hugging Adam's leg. "Bye, Mr. Adam," the child said. "Come back soon." Adam's heart lurched. He bent down to return the hug. "I will, buddy." It was a moment so small yet so profound, one that made the entire conspiracy swirling around them feel both more dangerous and more urgent. He had a family to protect, one he hadn't even realized he had. Nothing was more important. He slipped out into the hallway. He had arranged for 2 plainclothes hotel staff, loyal to him, to patrol near the suite. It wasn't perfect, but it would have to do until Beck set up something more robust. Then, threading his way through the bustling corridors, Adam exited the hotel altogether, stepping into the crisp night air. A short ride later, Adam arrived at a discreet parking garage about 3 blocks from the hotel, precisely the address he'd texted to Beck. A single overhead light cast the area in a stark yellow glow. Before Adam could exit his sedan, he spotted Beck waiting, leaning against a dark SUV, arms folded. Dressed in casual but functional attire, the man exuded calm confidence. Adam cut the engine and stepped out. "Thanks for coming." Beck offered a curt nod. "You sounded rattled on the phone. Let's hear what's going on." Adam quickly relayed the essentials. Isabella's unexpected return, the children, the menacing calls, the possible involvement of unscrupulous board members and outside rivals. He withheld certain private details, but gave Beck enough to paint a clear picture. By the time he finished, Beck's eyes had narrowed into a steely focus. "All right," Beck said. "I've seen scenarios like this. Personal secrets used to manipulate high-stakes negotiations. We'll set up quiet coverage of the mother and kids. Nothing flashy. If you trust me, I'll assemble a small team. I know just the people, none affiliated with your corporation." "That's exactly what I need," Adam replied. "The kids can't be pawns in this, and I suspect we'll need to track down whoever's behind these threats quickly. I want their names, their motivations, everything." Beck nodded. "We'll start by analyzing phone logs, security camera footage around the hotel, any suspicious movements. Once I pinpoint a lead, we'll move in." He paused, noting Adam's anxious stance. "This is personal for you, so let me remind you, you can't let your guard down. You've got to keep your head in the game, especially if your company's future hangs on these investor deals." Adam let out a weary sigh. "I know, but that's the worst part. I can't just vanish from my obligations. If I do, it'll raise eyebrows. People will wonder what crisis I'm hiding." Beck's brow creased with empathy. "We'll keep you in the loop. Meanwhile, a member of my team will stay near Ms. Carter's suite round the clock. Not invasive, but close enough to intervene if trouble shows up." "Thank you, Ray. I owe you one." Beck shrugged it off. "Don't mention it. Just one thing. If we suspect board members or big investors are behind this, that can get messy fast. We have to be prepared for them to cover their tracks or try to flip the narrative on you." Adam's gaze hardened. "I'm no stranger to that kind of power play, but to threaten children, that's a new low. I won't let them get away with it." "Understood," Beck said, extending his hand. "Keep your phone on. The moment we have any intel, I'll call." They shook firmly, and Adam returned to his sedan, mind swimming with a mix of relief and dread. He had taken an essential first step by hiring Beck, but the crisis was far from resolved. Menacing undercurrents, some from within Rochester Innovations, others from outside, were closing in. When he got back to the hotel, the lobby had quieted. Only a few night staff lingered, cleaning up after the day's events. Adam spotted Stefan near the elevator, engaged in hushed conversation with another board member, a woman named Claudia who was known for her cunning approach to business deals. They both paused their conversation as Adam approached. "Long day, Adam?" Stefan said mildly, eyes flicking to the smartphone in Adam's hand. "We missed you at the informal networking session." Adam gave a neutral nod, forcing a smile. "Had a private engagement, but I'll be ready for tomorrow's investor breakfast. How's everything looking?" Claudia answered with a glimmer in her eye. "Oh, very promising. We have an entire contingent of European investors flying in tomorrow. They're curious about the new energy storage partnership. Are you prepared for an intensive Q&A? Of course, Adam replied smoothly. That's my specialty. She stepped closer. You seem preoccupied, though. Something on your mind? Instinct warned Adam that this was more than idle curiosity. Just tying up some last-minute business, he replied lightly. We'll have a busy day tomorrow. I suggest we all get some rest. Stefan and Claudia exchanged an unreadable look. Then Stefan shrugged. Indeed. Good night, Adam. He watched them board the elevator together, their hushed voices continuing. Once they disappeared behind the sliding doors, Adam released a slow exhale. Was he just paranoid, or did they seem to be plotting something? He reminded himself he couldn't trust the surface politeness in the world of high finance. The kindest smile might hide a knife. Finally, Adam slipped into a secondary elevator that led to the back corridor near Isabella's new suite. Beck had texted him to confirm that one of his operatives, a woman named Suzanne, was already on site. Adam felt a subtle spark of hope. At least for tonight, Isabella and the twins would have some protection if someone tried anything bold. He reached the door and, rather than knock, quietly slid a note underneath, letting Isabella know he was back, that security was in place, and that he'd see her first thing in the morning before the investor sessions started. A wave of longing rolled over him. He wanted to spend more time with them, maybe read the twins a bedtime story. But he also knew stepping in and out of her suite at odd hours would risk unwanted attention. Reluctantly, Adam continued up to his own penthouse suite. The rooms were lavish and far more spacious than Isabella's, but they felt hollow. To avoid letting uneasy thoughts fester, he popped open his laptop to review tomorrow's investor materials. Yet every time he glanced at a spreadsheet or a financial projection, his mind drifted back to Isabella's frightened eyes, the children's innocence, and the sense that any moment something could go horribly wrong. Outside, the city glittered, oblivious. Inside Adam's chest, a quiet fury grew. Fury at those who exploited personal secrets for power. Fury at the possibility that trusted colleagues had orchestrated intimidation. This had become about more than just saving his reputation or sealing a lucrative deal. It was about doing right by Isabella and the children whose existence he had only just discovered. He tapped out a final email to his PR manager, ensuring the next day's press gatherings were tightly controlled. No leaks, no sensational surprises. Then he closed his computer, gazing at the reflection of the city lights in the suite's panoramic window. Tomorrow would bring more corporate challenges, and behind the scenes, he and Beck would begin hunting for the puppeteers pulling the strings. One thing was certain. Adam Rochester wasn't going to let faceless threats scare him off. For the first time in ages, he felt not just the hunger to win, but the deeper conviction to protect what truly mattered. And he would succeed, no matter what obstacles stood in his way. Morning sunlight filtered through the tall windows of the hotel's executive conference hall. A bustle of fresh arrivals, investors from Europe and Asia, mingled by the coffee station, eager for the official day's events to start. Adam stood near the podium, checking his watch. He felt the familiar pre-presentation nerves, but they ran deeper today, entangled with the knowledge that someone, somewhere, was gunning for him and his secret family. His phone buzzed. Beck had sent a message. No unusual movement last night. Children are fine. We'll remain on watch. Relief washed over Adam. For now, at least, Isabella and the twins were secure. Adam. A calm, smooth voice cut through the low hum of conversation. He turned to see Claudia, the board member who had been conferring with Stefan the night before. She looked the picture of composure in a sleek business suit, a manicured hand resting on a portfolio. The investors are ready. Should we begin? Adam gave a curt nod. Yes, let's do it. Claudia beckoned the guests into a semicircle near the front of the room. Rows of plush seats faced a wide projection screen. With a swift greeting, she introduced Adam as the visionary behind Rochester Innovations' new push into cutting-edge battery tech. Adam, Ever the polished executive launched into his presentation. As he advanced each slide, trends in clean energy demand, the cost benefits of the company's proprietary technology, he scanned the crowd, making direct eye contact to build rapport. But a sliver of his mind was elsewhere, gauging whether any listening ear or suspicious expression suggested deeper intrigue. He had learned early on that threats in the corporate world rarely came with open hostility. More often they arrived in polite gestures and subtle deals behind closed doors. To his surprise, Stefan appeared at the back of the room midway through Adam's talk, leaning against a wall with an inscrutable expression. Adam continued smoothly, disguising his unease. He finished the pitch to applause and fielded a few technical questions. After the last investor returned to the buffet for coffee refills, Stefan approached with arms folded. "Excellent presentation," Stefan said in a low voice. The European group seemed especially impressed. "With any luck, we'll secure their funding by tonight." Adam tilted his head, wary. "That's the plan." Stefan cast a quick glance at Claudia, who was busy chatting with two visiting financiers. "May I have a private word?" Without waiting for a yes, he motioned for Adam to step into a smaller side room, a private lounge area set up for VIPs. Inside, Stefan closed the door and turned, his expression grim. "I'm hearing rumors of some personal matters overshadowing your focus. Certain people say you've been seen going in and out of the staff corridors. Something about a woman and 2 children?" Adam felt his chest tighten. He kept his face neutral, though. "And if that were true, how does it affect Rochester Innovations? My personal life is personal, Stefan." "Perhaps," Stefan allowed with a mild shrug. "But your personal life becomes everyone's concern when it endangers a major deal. Unsavory allegations, messy headlines, any scandal right now could spook the investors." Adam clenched his jaw. "So you want me to pretend I don't have a private life?" "What I want," Stefan said coolly, "is to ensure the deal closes and the company remains stable. If there's something you need to share, something that might blow up in your face, spare us the shock. We can control the narrative if we know the truth." A flicker of rage sparked in Adam's chest. The man spoke as if Adam were a mere pawn, but Adam forced calm into his voice. "I assure you I have everything under control. There will be no scandal." Stefan studied him, eyes narrowing. "Let's hope so. Because if a scandal does break, the board will have to take swift action. And that might not work out well for you, or for any attachments you might have." His voice dropped to a near whisper. "Watch your step, Adam. We all want what's best for Rochester Innovations. Don't jeopardize that." Before Adam could retort, Stefan turned on his heel and strode out. Adam remained in the lounge, seething. Had Stefan just threatened him outright? The board had always been divided on Adam's leadership, but this felt different, more personal. And if Stefan knew about the children? Adam glanced at his phone, fighting the urge to check in with Isabella again. The day's schedule was jam-packed, more investor talks, a press briefing, and a semi-formal lunch. If he disappeared too often, it would raise eyebrows. Plus, Beck's text had said Isabella was safe. No need to overreact, he told himself, though the knot in his stomach refused to ease. He emerged from the private lounge to find Claudia lingering outside the door, a bright smile plastered on her face that didn't reach her eyes. "Everything all right?" Adam gave a short nod. "Fine, thanks. Just discussing strategy with Stefan." She tilted her head, gaze flicking from the lounge door to Adam's tense expression. "Well, the investors want to speak with you again. They're interested in the timeline for ROI on the new product line. I told them you'd be happy to elaborate." "Of course," Adam replied, slipping on a smile. This was the game. Keep the deal on track, keep the board placated, and keep the truth under wraps until he could neutralize the threats. The day dragged on, each conversation demanding razor-sharp composure. While Adam presented slides and answered questions, Isabella was having her own ordeal. Tucked away in the discreet suite, She tried to distract the twins with coloring books and their favorite cartoon. Meanwhile, her mind churned over how she would pitch her designs to potential buyers, or if it was even safe to do so. Lucy had promised to line up a short one-on-one session with a respected jewelry distributor who was in town for the same event. Isabella's nerves fluttered every time her phone buzzed. She half expected another threatening message. When midday arrived, Lucy texted, "Meet me in the Orchid Salon at 2 p.m. Distributor is called Grant Forrester. Great contact. Very low profile. I'll handle intros." Isabella braced herself. She peeked at the twins, who were singing along to a cartoon jingle. "Boys," she said softly, "Mommy has a quick meeting soon. It's an important grown-up talk. You'll stay here with Ms. Suzanne. Remember her?" The older twin nodded. They had met Suzanne, Beck's quiet but reassuring operative who slipped into the suite that morning, presenting herself as a friend of Mr. Adam. Suzanne currently sat in the kitchenette corner, sipping tea and scanning her phone, ever vigilant. "I'll be gone only a little while," Isabella promised, squatting down so she was eye level with her children. "Then we can have an adventure together. Maybe lunch in the room, okay?" They nodded. The younger one asked, "Will Mr. Adam come too?" Isabella's heart twinged. "He's busy working, sweetie, but maybe later." She rose, grabbed her bag of design sketches, and exchanged a knowing look with Suzanne, who gave her a nod of encouragement. Then, taking a deep breath, Isabella slipped into the hallway, feeling oddly vulnerable without Adam close by. Yet she reminded herself she wasn't alone. Beck's team was protecting them. Lucy was helping with the pitch. She had to trust in that. Downstairs, the Orchid Salon was a smaller, elegantly decorated space typically used for side meetings. Lucy stood by the door, beckoning Isabella in. "Perfect timing. Grant is inside. He's a bit reserved, but if he likes your designs, he could open serious doors." Isabella clutched her portfolio and stepped into the salon. The room smelled faintly of orchids and polished wood. A silver-haired man in a tailored suit rose to greet her. "Ms. Carter, I presume?" His voice was refined, his smile polite. "Yes. Thank you for meeting me, Mr. Forrester." She shook his hand, trying to steady her nerves. Lucy quietly left them to chat in private. Grant guided her to a small coffee table where Isabella set out her sketches, each piece meticulously drawn and annotated with gemstone options. His eyes flicked over them with keen interest. Occasionally he nodded or murmured, "Intriguing use of negative space," or "very contemporary lines." As she walked him through her concepts, Isabella felt a spark of confidence returning. Design was her territory, her passion. The swirl of threatening phone calls and corporate schemes faded momentarily, replaced by the thrill of discussing her art. When Grant finally closed her portfolio, a half-smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Ms. Carter, I must say I'm impressed. We've seen an influx of new designers lately, but your approach has distinction. If I were to consider sponsoring a limited collection, are you prepared with a prototype or small run?" Isabella's heart leapt. "Yes, I can produce a small batch if we secure the right resources." Grant nodded. "All right, let's schedule a follow-up. If we agree, we'll discuss a distribution deal. Test your collection in a few key markets." He extended a business card. Relief and excitement welled up inside her. She had dreamed of an opportunity like this for years. She reached out to take the card, but froze as a new voice cut in from the salon doorway. "Busy, are we?" Isabella's head jerked up to see none other than Claudia, leaning against the frame, arms folded, an almost cat-like smile on her lips. "I didn't realize you had an appointment here, Ms. Carter." Grant Forrester, sensing tension, tucked the business card into Isabella's hand. "We'll speak soon," he murmured politely, stepping away with a slight bow to both women. Isabella watched him leave, her excitement deflating under Claudia's sharp gaze. Once they were alone, Claudia closed the door behind her. "So, Ms. Carter," she said in a low tone, "I heard from hotel staff that you were staying here, at Adam Rochester's request, no less." Isabella forced herself to remain calm. I'm simply a designer trying to secure backing for my collection. Mr. Rochester was kind enough to help arrange a safe place to stay. Safe? Claudia repeated, arching a brow. My, that sounds dramatic. Care to explain? Isabella's pulse pounded. The last thing she wanted was to reveal her connection to Adam and the twins. But something about Claudia's demeanor felt threatening. I don't believe I owe you an explanation, Ms. Claudia Navarro, board member of Rochester Innovations, Claudia supplied crisply. I oversee certain expansions and public image initiatives. Any unplanned disruptions in Mr. Rochester's life could pose a concern for our investors. Isabella pressed her lips together. With all due respect, my meeting with Mr. Forrester has nothing to do with your company's affairs. Perhaps, but rumors suggest otherwise. I've heard about you, someone Adam used to employ. Then you vanished, and now you reappear, right in time for a high-stakes weekend. Claudia's gaze flicked to Isabella's portfolio on the table. If you're attempting to leverage some personal connection with Adam, be warned. The board won't allow private scandals to derail our deals. Anger and fear mingled in Isabella's chest. I'm not leveraging anything. I'm here for a professional reason, my designs. And frankly, I don't see how it's any of your concern. Claudia's smile was frosty. We'll see about that. Just know, we have ways of handling distractions when necessary. If there's any messy situation, like unacknowledged children, for instance, our PR teams will bury it if it benefits the company, or they'll expose it if it doesn't. Isabella's breath caught, so Claudia did suspect. Are you threatening me? She asked, voice trembling. Threatening? Not at all, Claudia replied lightly. I'm merely explaining how things work at our level. We will protect Rochester Innovations from any scandal. If you truly care about Mr. Rochester, you wouldn't do anything to jeopardize his position or sabotage the deals he's worked so hard to secure. She eyed Isabella's sketches. Your designs might be brilliant, but in the grand scheme of things, they're expendable if you become a problem. A furious retort rose to Isabella's lips, but she bit it back. Claudia gave her a tight smile and left the salon as abruptly as she'd arrived. Isabella stood rooted, her heart hammering. She clutched Grant's business card, the small victory of that moment overshadowed by a larger threat. It was clear now. The board had eyes everywhere. They were prepared to do anything to keep Adam's personal secrets from interfering with their corporate ambitions. Outside, Lucy poked her head in. You okay? You look shaken. Isabella swallowed hard. Claudia Navarro, she just cornered me. She practically hinted that they know about Adam and the twins. Said if I cause a scandal, they'll bury us, or expose us, whichever suits them. Lucy's expression darkened. So it's worse than I feared. The board is definitely sniffing around. Isabella, you need to tell Adam right away. He has to know Claudia is onto you. Isabella nodded. Yes, I will. But she sounded so certain, like they're ready to crush anyone who disrupts their plans. We won't let that happen, Lucy said resolutely. Come on, let's get you back to your suite, and we'll call Adam. Her nerves humming with fear, Isabella let Lucy guide her from the orchid salon. She clutched her portfolio with shaky hands, torn between pride for her small success with the distributor and dread for the dark forces swirling within Rochester Innovations. If this was how Claudia operated, Isabella couldn't imagine what else the board might do, especially if some of them were linked to the anonymous threats. Meanwhile, Adam, unaware of Claudia's confrontation, was making polite small talk with yet another group of investors. But he felt the weight of invisible eyes, prying ears, waiting for him to slip. An uneasy sense told him trouble was brewing, and sure enough, when his phone chimed with an urgent text from Lucy, Claudia approached Isabella. You need to see her ASAP. Adam's worst suspicions crystallized. He ended his conversation with the financiers smoothly, all while his mind mapped out a new plan. He had to warn Isabella that the board was actively closing in. They needed a strategy, fast, and as he marched down the corridor to find her, Adam resolved that no matter what corporate rules he might shatter, he would not let these power-hungry vultures hurt the woman he cared about, or the children he had only just begun to know. Adam's brisk steps carried him through the winding hotel corridors until he arrived at the secluded suite where Isabella and the twins had taken refuge. He paused outside the door, composing himself. Anxiety knotted his stomach, yet he forced a calm demeanor, not wanting to alarm the children further. He knocked quietly. When the door opened, Lucy stood there, pressing a finger to her lips. "They're watching cartoons," she whispered, nodding toward the twins curled up on the couch. Isabella sat beside them, but her gaze was distant, lost in thought. Adam slipped in, eyeing the suite. No sign of additional threats, for now. He exhaled. "I got your text," he murmured to Lucy. "Where's Claudia now?" "Likely mixing with investors," Lucy answered. "She's not done sniffing around, though. Tried to corner Isabella in the orchid salon." Adam's expression darkened. "I'll handle her," he said grimly. "She won't threaten my family again." At the sound of voices, Isabella turned around. Relief and worry mingled in her eyes as Adam approached. I'm so glad you're here," she said softly, glancing at the twins, who were momentarily engrossed in colorful cartoon characters dancing on the screen. Adam took a seat, lowering his voice. "Lucy told me what happened with Claudia. Did she actually bring up the children?" Isabella nodded. "Not directly, but she practically spelled it out. Warned me about a scandal, said she'd bury or expose us if it benefited the board." Her voice quivered. "She knows, Adam, or at least strongly suspects." He set his jaw. "They can suspect all they want, but they have no proof. And if they plan to threaten me, they'll find I'm not as easily controlled as they think." A soft gasp pulled both their gazes to the older twin, who twisted around to look at them. "What's a scandal?" he asked in a small voice. Adam managed a gentle smile. "Just a grown-up word, buddy. Nothing you need to worry about." But the boy's solemn expression tugged at his heart. Children shouldn't be caught in such chaos. Seeing the child's confusion, Isabella picked up the remote and turned the volume a bit higher, hoping to distract the twins while she and Adam spoke quietly in the corner. Lucy hovered nearby like a protective shield. Adam searched Isabella's face. "We can't keep you hidden here indefinitely. And if Claudia is this brazen, others on the board might be too. I've already got Beck's team checking for any signs of sabotage, but the board wields influence. If they go public with our situation, it could ruin everything. Your privacy, the company's reputation." Isabella exhaled shakily. "I don't want to be the cause of your downfall. You've worked for years to build Rochester Innovations. If it came out now that you had secret children raised by a former employee, it would be a field day for the media, and that's before factoring in these threats." Adam's hand brushed hers. "Let's not frame it as my downfall. This is about us, these kids, and our future. The board's concern is purely profit and power. If they think they can leverage or blackmail me, they'll try. But maybe there's a way to control the narrative before they weaponize it. Go public on our own terms." Isabella paled at the thought. "Public? With the children? Adam, I'm not sure I'm ready for a media frenzy." He rubbed his forehead. "I'm not entirely sure either. But we may not have a choice. If we get cornered, it might be better to announce that we've reunited as a family, that we're moving forward. It diffuses the scandal and leaves less room for rumors." Then a softer note entered his voice. "But that decision is also yours. I won't force you into a spotlight you don't want." She nodded, swallowing hard. "Let's keep it as a last resort. First, see if we can stop the board's schemers. Maybe we can gather evidence that certain members, like Claudia, are responsible for these threats. If they have more to hide than we do, we can use it." Lucy chimed in. "Agreed. Adam, do you know if Beck's team has turned up anything? Phone traces, suspicious transactions, anything that might link the threats to the board?" "Not yet. Adam said. "Beck texted me this morning. So far, no clear leads. Whoever's orchestrating this is covering their tracks, but I'm hoping we'll have something soon." A dull ache spread behind Adam's eyes. On top of juggling investor pitches, he had to outmaneuver ruthless colleagues and, in the worst case, prepare a scorched earth tactic of revealing his personal life to the public. The stakes had never felt higher. The shrill tone of the suite's phone broke the tense silence. Isabella and Adam exchanged a sharp glance. She hurried over, picking up cautiously. "Hello?" A brief pause. Then, "Ms. Carter, this is the front desk. There's an envelope waiting for you at reception." The receptionist sounded polite, oblivious to the tension in Isabella's voice. She sighed in relief, yet her hand shook. "Thank you. I'll be down shortly to collect it." Hanging up, Isabella turned to Adam. "An envelope for me. Could be another threat." "I'll go with you," he insisted. Lucy, sensing the risk, offered to stay with the twins. Soon, Adam and Isabella slipped into the hallway, accompanied by Suzanne, the security operative Beck had stationed for them, who followed at a discreet distance. The trek to the front desk felt long. Both scanned the corridors for any sign of watchers. Adam's pulse throbbed with a mix of protectiveness and dread. At the reception counter, a reserved-looking clerk handed Isabella a small, cream-colored envelope with a neat handwritten label, "Isabella Carter." She and Adam exchanged wary glances. "Should we open it here?" she whispered. Adam shook his head, gesturing to a nearby lounge area with plush chairs. "Let's have a seat." Suzanne took up a vantage point a few feet away, alert for trouble. Isabella carefully slipped a finger under the flap. Her eyes moved quickly over the short message, then her lips parted in shock. She passed the note to Adam, whose own pulse leapt as he read the words, "Showcase your designs, keep silent about the children, or lose everything. A friend." He inhaled sharply. What is this supposed to mean? Another intimidation tactic? Isabella ran a hand through her hair, exasperation coloring her voice. "It's contradictory, telling me to pursue my jewelry pitch but remain silent about the kids. They're pressuring me to behave as if there's no connection to you. Why would they even care if I pitch my designs?" Adam's brow furrowed. "Maybe someone stands to profit if your jewelry line takes off, or they want to keep you close, keep you visible here at the hotel, but ensure you don't reveal our relationship." She glanced at him, fear flickering in her eyes. "Or it's just another mind game, dangling my dreams in front of me but threatening to destroy me if I speak up." His jaw tightened. "We won't let them manipulate you. We'll treat it as further evidence of harassment. I'll have Beck analyze the handwriting, the paper. Maybe we can trace it." Isabella nodded, though she couldn't shake the feeling of being a puppet in someone else's scheme. "Adam," she said softly, What if the best move is for me to just leave? Disappear again with the boys until all this is over? I can't bear to see them in danger." He took her hand, a resolute light in his eyes. "No, we face this together. Letting you vanish won't end the threats. They'd still hold the kids' existence over my head. Besides, you deserve your chance to pitch your jewelry without fear." The conviction in his tone made her heart ache. Memories of how passionately Adam once championed her designs, how they burned the midnight oil brainstorming new ideas together, the closeness that grew between them, then the heartbreak of leaving, a swirl of longing and regret filled her. Yet here he was, standing by her even in the face of danger. Could she trust him enough to stay? "All right," she said finally. "We stay." Adam squeezed her fingers gently. "We do. We'll let Beck do his job. Meanwhile, I have another investor meeting soon. Let's get you back to the suite safely." She managed a small nod. Together, they returned to the elevator lobby. Behind them, Suzanne trailed, scanning every passerby with a trained eye. As the elevator rose, Adam turned to Isabella with a burdened expression. "Once this next investor session is over, I'll come up. We'll talk through our options. maybe even consider the possibility of a controlled public statement. Isabella's stomach nodded. Yes, I just hope we're not forced into it before we're ready. The elevator doors opened on their floor. They parted ways, Adam heading off to fulfill his CEO duties, Isabella escorted by Suzanne back to the suite. Stepping inside, Isabella found Lucy still watching the twins. The moment Lucy noticed Isabella's shaken expression, she whisked her aside for details. Another note, basically telling me to keep quiet about the kids. Isabella's voice trembled. They want me to proceed with my jewelry pitch, as if that's part of their plan, but remain silent about everything else. I feel like I'm being toyed with. Lucy scowled. This is twisted. We should talk to that security guy of Adam's, Beck. He might piece together who's behind these messages, and if it's someone on the board, all the better we expose them. Isabella dropped onto the sofa, trying to steady her breathing. I'm worried. About Adam, too. The board could be playing mind games with him separately. Stefan, Claudia, they're capable of anything. Lucy gently put an arm around her shoulders. We'll find a way. And remember, you're stronger than you think. Slightly reassured, Isabella stood and wandered over to the twins, who looked up with bright smiles. They had no clue about the swirling threats that loomed over them. Kneeling, she gathered them into a gentle embrace, her heart brimming with fierce protectiveness. She would do everything necessary to keep them safe. Meanwhile, in another wing of the hotel, Adam was stepping into a private conference room packed with international financiers. He shook hands, offered warm greetings, and then launched into yet another pitch. His words were practiced, but beneath the polished exterior, his mind raced. Bits of the day's developments played in his head, Claudia's veiled threats, Stefan's suspicions, the cryptic note to Isabella. He glanced around at the faces in the room. Were any of these investors colluding with the board to pressure him? Or were they all simply here for business? The further he got into the meeting, the more a sense of looming crisis gnawed at him. Sooner or later, something would crack, and secrets would spill. Adam closed the session with a forced smile, ushering the investors out with handshakes. As the door clicked shut behind the last person, he slumped in a chair, exhaling a ragged breath. He felt alone, cornered, responsible for protecting not only his company, but also the little family he'd belatedly discovered. The burden was immense. His phone vibrated. Beck's name popped up on the screen. Adam snatched it up quickly. Tell me you have good news, Ray. Beck's voice was measured. We found something interesting. My team recovered partial footage from the hotel's corridor cameras. Someone slipped that envelope under Ms. Carter's door last night, but their face was obscured. They wore a ball cap and gloves. Typical. However, we traced the path they took when leaving. They vanished near the board member's suite. Adam felt his pulse jump. Which board member's suite? We haven't pinned it exactly, but we can confirm the person either emerged from or headed into a cluster of rooms reserved by your company's top brass. Stefan's, Claudia's, and a few others. It's a lead. A grim satisfaction curled in Adam's chest. So it could well be the board behind this, or someone close to them. Keep digging, Ray. We need stronger proof. Will do, Beck said. Also, you should know my tech guys are analyzing phone records. We'll see if any calls to Ms. Carter were routed from within the hotel. Once we have more, I'll brief you. Thanks, Adam replied. Hanging up, he stared at the silent conference room. So the note dropper was connected to the board's floor. That narrowed down the suspects. Claudia was high on the list. Stefan, possibly. Or some unknown accomplice. His chest tightened as a wave of protectiveness surged. They were targeting Isabella, threatening her dreams, her safety, threatening the children. Adam could almost feel the lines of war being drawn. If he wanted to protect his loved ones and safeguard his empire, he'd need to be 2 steps ahead. Rising, Adam steadied his suit jacket, face set in determination. He wouldn't rest until he rooted out the conspirators lurking in his midst. If they wanted a showdown, he would bring it, and he would make sure Isabella and the twins never felt the sting of danger again. Late afternoon sunlight slanted through the tall windows of the hotel's upper floors, casting long beams across the corridor as Adam, shoulders tense, returned from yet another investor meeting. He'd managed to secure verbal commitments from multiple parties, which should have been cause for celebration. Yet he couldn't shake the simmering anger and paranoia that dogged his every step. Clutching his phone, Adam reread Beck's latest update. A short text stating his team was now analyzing phone records from the hotel's internal lines, searching for any calls that matched the timestamps of the threatening messages. Part of Adam welcomed the methodical progress. Part of him wanted to storm into Stefan's or Claudia's suite and demand answers right now. But rash moves could cost him crucial evidence and risk spooking the real masterminds into deeper cover. Ahead, Lucy stepped out of Isabella's suite. She had offered to gather more of the items Isabella needed for her upcoming jewelry pitch. Upon seeing Adam, Lucy signaled him with a subtle wave, then fell into step beside him, pulling the door shut quietly. "They're inside," she said under her breath. "Isabella's trying to act normal for the kids, but she's anxious, understandably. Any new developments on your end?" Adam nodded, casting a wary glance up and down the empty hallway. Beck discovered the person who left that note was on the board's floor last night. The cameras couldn't catch their face, but were narrowing suspects. Has Isabella heard from anyone else? Lucy's eyes flickered. No more calls or notes. She's supposed to meet with the potential jewelry distributor again tomorrow morning. I'm helping her finalize her pitch, but she's spooked. She asked me if maybe she should cancel. No, Adam said firmly, voice quiet but urgent. I want her to go through with the pitch. If these people want her to showcase her designs, letting her do so keeps them from escalating, at least for the moment. And she deserves the chance to advance her career without living in fear. Lucy mustered a small smile. Right. I'll let her know. Are you heading in to see them? In a minute, Adam answered. First, I want to talk with Beck by phone. I'll make sure his team is posted discreetly around the meeting tomorrow. I won't let anything happen to her or the kids. Lucy gave him a brief, approving nod. I'll join her inside. Take your time. Then she slipped back into the suite, leaving Adam alone. He walked to a quieter alcove overlooking the city and dialed Beck's number. Once again, it rang several times before the man picked up. Any progress? Adam asked, not bothering with pleasantries. Beck's baritone carried a note of caution. We've identified 3 suspicious calls to Ms. Carter's line. They originated from the hotel's PBX system, but the extension used was one assigned to the upper executive floor. Either Stefan or Claudia both have personal lines there. But that's not definitive proof because theoretically any staff or visitor with access to that floor's phone lounge could have used the extension. Adam pinched the bridge of his nose. So we know it's from their area, but we can't confirm which specific suite or person. Any leads on who made them? Still working. I also have a software specialist analyzing background noise from the recordings Ms. Carter saved. If we're lucky, we'll match some ambient sound, like a board member's TV broadcast or something. But it's a long shot. Frustration gnawed at Adam. Keep me updated. I have a suspicion that Claudia is the prime culprit, but Stefan is no innocent. Maybe they're both involved. By the way, Isabella is scheduled to meet a potential investor for her jewelry line tomorrow morning. Can you have your team around? Low profile, but ready in case something goes sideways? Of course, Beck replied. I'll assign Suzanne and another operative to watch the vicinity. Meanwhile, I'll keep digging. Don't worry, I won't rest until we pin down the mastermind. Thank you. Adam ended the call, exhaling a breath of pent-up tension. The day was nearing its end, but the real confrontation still loomed. Deciding he'd delayed long enough, he headed to Isabella's suite. He paused outside the door, rapped softly, and let himself in. Inside, the gentle glow of table lamps lit the living area, where the twins were seated on the floor, building a tower out of small blocks. Lucy sat at a corner table, laptop open, reviewing presentation slides for the next day. Isabella, at the kitchenette, turned when he entered, relief dancing in her tired eyes. "Hey," she greeted quietly. "Everything all right?" Adam attempted a reassuring smile. "As all right as it can be. Investor talks are going smoothly, at least from a business perspective." He glanced at the twins, who waved happily. "Hey, buddies. Nice tower you've got there." He crouched down, gently placing a block on top of their construction. The older twin giggled, shyly tugging at Adam's sleeve. That simple gesture filled Adam with a quiet warmth he wasn't used to, at least not in his high-stakes corporate life. The younger boy started babbling enthusiastically about how tall their tower could get if only they had more blocks. After a moment, Adam rose and joined Isabella at the kitchenette. She had a list of her jewelry pieces scrawled on a notepad, plus some sketches laid out. "Tomorrow morning's meeting with Grant Forrester. How are you feeling?" She winced, running a finger across one of her designs. "Nervous, but determined. Lucy says he's genuinely interested. If it goes well, I might secure a sponsor. That could mean a real future for my brand." Adam's hand hovered near hers. "That's wonderful, and I'll have Beck's people stationed around the meeting area. You won't be alone." She glanced at him gratefully. "Thank you, truly, for everything. I know how much you're juggling." He wanted to say more, perhaps reassure her that she and the twins were his top priority, despite appearances. But just then, Lucy cleared her throat, her eyes flicking between them. "Adam, sorry to interrupt, but a staffer from your PR team called. They're setting up a final press briefing tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be big, apparently. The official close of your energy storage deal. Are you prepared?" Adam exhaled. "I'll be ready. By that time, we should know if the investment is locked, and hopefully, we'll have clarity on this threat situation." A moment's silence fell, the weight of the unknown pressing on them. Isabella's lips curved into a forced smile. "All right then. Guess we keep moving forward." She pointed at a small tray of snacks on the counter. "I was about to serve the kids a light dinner. Would you join us?" Adam's chest constricted with unexpected emotion, a simple domestic invitation, laced with the knowledge they were holed up here under threat. Yet it felt right. "I'd love to." While Lucy quietly packed her things, preparing to step out for her own dinner break, Adam and Isabella ushered the twins to a small table. The boys chattered about their day, oblivious to the tension. They giggled over inside jokes only siblings could share. Observing them, Adam marveled at how natural it felt to be included in this tiny moment of routine, making sure the kids ate, listening to their playful banter. Isabella pulled out sandwich makings from the mini fridge, setting out peanut butter, jelly, and sliced fruit. "It's not gourmet," she apologized, "but we're working with what we have." Adam smiled warmly. "I lived off quick sandwiches for years when I first started working. It's perfect." He helped spoon peanut butter onto the bread, letting the younger twin watch in fascination. They ended up with sticky fingers and lopsided sandwiches, but the laughter felt like a balm. Halfway through their makeshift dinner, Suzanne stepped in from the corridor, conferring with Lucy briefly, then approached Adam quietly. "Sir, your phone's been buzzing. They're calling from your suite. Someone from the board is looking for you." Adam grimaced. "Which someone?" "Claudia," Suzanne replied. "She said it's urgent." Annoyance flared. "All right, I'll handle it, but—" He turned to Isabella. "Promise you'll be okay if I step away for a few minutes?" She nodded, though apprehension flickered in her eyes. "We'll be fine." Adam patted the older twin's head. "Be right back, champ." The child's face lit up at the nickname. With reluctance, Adam slipped out of the suite, phone in hand, Suzanne trailing to ensure he stayed safe from any potential ambush. Once he returned to his own penthouse, he found the phone flashing. He picked up, and Claudia's clipped tone spilled through immediately. "Adam, we need a word. I've heard from one of the European investors that you've been distracted, disappearing midday, ignoring calls. Is there something you want to tell me?" Adam felt a surge of frustration. I'm juggling multiple responsibilities, Claudia. The investors are satisfied with my proposals from what I can tell. Why the sudden inquisition? She gave a brittle laugh. Because rumor has it you've got something going on behind the scenes, something that could jeopardize all our efforts if it hits the tabloids. I'm trying to protect the company, Adam. If you've entangled yourself with a former subordinate who's reappeared, perhaps with a child, maybe more than one child, don't think I won't take steps to mitigate fallout. A leaden anger coiled in Adam's chest, so she was basically confirming she knew about the twins. And by mitigate fallout, you mean what exactly? Blackmail me into submission? Claudia's voice softened to a dangerous purr. Let's not use such ugly words. Look, we just need to ensure stability. If you publicly confirm children fathered out of wedlock, that's scandalous. Granted, not always career-ending, but combine it with the fact this mother was an ex-employee, that can raise questions about impropriety or even corporate ethics violations. Let's avoid that, yes? Adam forced a calm tone, though his grip on the phone tightened. So, what do you want? A brief silence. Then Claudia said, Simple. Sign the new partnership with our recommended conditions. Allow the board greater oversight on spending and product timelines. Meanwhile, keep your personal affairs discreet. Once the deal closes, we can negotiate how best to handle your family matters. He almost laughed at the audacity. So that's your angle, a power grab disguised as a moral concern. She ignored the barb. Think about it, Adam. The next few days are critical. Don't let personal drama sabotage years of work. If you comply, we can guide this to a controlled outcome. No leaks, no scandal. Everyone wins. Adam's gaze darted to the window, where dusk was settling over the city. He refused to be cornered. But to protect Isabella and the kids, he had to be strategic. I'll consider your proposal, he said, voice clipped. But don't push me too far, Claudia. I have my own resources. A slight laugh came through the line. We'll see. Good night, Adam. The call ended. He slammed the receiver down, blood boiling, so she wanted to blackmail him into letting the board reclaim authority. He realized now it likely wasn't just Claudia. Stefan could be in on this too, or maybe other board members. They'd discovered the perfect pressure point, his newly revealed children. He immediately dialed Beck's number again. Ray, you've got to move faster, Adam said tersely. Claudia basically threatened me over the phone just now. She wants me to cede power to the board or risk having the children exposed in a scandal. Beck's calm voice replied, We'll keep pressing. Maybe we should record any further calls from her. If you can get her to repeat those threats, we'll have leverage. Meantime, my team is analyzing everything we have. The moment we can tie her or her cronies to these intimidation tactics, we strike. Adam rubbed his temples. Understood. If we can catch them red-handed, maybe we can flip the script. Hanging up, he lingered in his suite, trying to quell the fury roiling inside. Now he had a clearer idea of what the conspirators wanted. They weren't aiming to sabotage the entire company, only to rein Adam in, recapture control, and keep him from making unilateral decisions. But the price of defiance would be a public scandal about his secret family. It was a vile tactic. Adam felt torn between the need to protect Isabella's privacy and the obligation to defend his leadership. Pacing, he weighed his options. One approach was to yield partially, stalling the board while he gathered enough evidence to turn the tables. Another was to go nuclear, preemptively reveal everything to the public, deflating the board's blackmail. But that would drag Isabella and the twins into a media firestorm. He recalled her anxious face, the quiet way she tried to keep the boys calm. He couldn't subject them to tabloids banging on their door, especially not now. Taking a shuddering breath, Adam resolved that the best approach, at least for the moment, was stealth. Play Claudia's game, act cooperative enough to keep her from pulling the trigger, all while Beck's team built a case. He cast one more glance at the city lights. Then he left his suite, returning down the hallway to Isabella's. She was tidying up the small table where they'd eaten, the twins already tucked into bed in the adjoining room. Lucy and Suzanne were quietly discussing security logistics in a corner. Isabella looked over as Adam approached. Concern clouded her eyes. "You look upset. What happened?" He lowered his voice to keep the conversation private. "Claudia called. She all but admitted she knows about the boys. She's using it to twist my arm. If I don't concede some control to the board, she'll orchestrate a media scandal, possibly destroy your reputation in the process." Isabella's face paled. "That's horrible. What are we supposed to do?" Adam touched her shoulder gently. "We have a plan. Sort of. We stall them, gather proof of their blackmail, then expose them ourselves. Meanwhile, Beck's team is sifting through clues. With luck, we'll have enough to bring them down before they do any real damage." He could see tears glistening in her eyes. "I'm sorry you're under such pressure because of me." "Don't say that," he murmured. "None of this is your fault. It's them, twisting normal human things, like having a family, into a corporate weapon." She managed a small nod, blinking back tears. "And what if we don't stop them in time?" Adam swallowed, gaze drifting toward the closed door of the bedroom where the twins slept. "If it looks like they'll go public, we'll beat them to it. We'll handle the fallout. The important thing is keeping you and the kids safe." Isabella's lips trembled. She surprised him by stepping closer, resting her head lightly against his chest. Instinctively, Adam wrapped an arm around her, feeling the rapid beat of her heart. The moment was fleeting, a quiet reassurance amid chaos. Lucy and Suzanne politely pretended to busy themselves with other tasks, respecting the privacy of the moment. Finally, Isabella pulled back, wiping her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "We'll get through this." Adam felt a surge of determination. "We will. Tomorrow's crucial. You meet with Grant Forrester, finalize that deal for your designs. I'll close the investment for Rochester Innovations. Then we'll corner Claudia and Stefan if he's involved and lay our trap. One way or another, this ends soon." He glanced at his watch. Midnight was creeping up. The hotel was quieting. Another dawn would bring more negotiations, more scrutiny, and possibly more threats. Yet beneath the tension, Adam felt a resolve he'd rarely experienced before. His fight was no longer just about corporate ambition. It was about defending a future he never imagined he would have. "Get some rest," he told Isabella gently, stepping away. "I'll check in first thing in the morning." She nodded. As he headed to the door, he felt her gaze on his back and the faint echo of trust and fear in her voice. "Good night, Adam." He paused, forcing a gentle smile. "Good night. Keep the door locked. Suzanne will stay on guard." Then he slipped out, the hallway's hush swallowing him. In the corridor, Adam caught sight of a faint reflection in the polished elevator doors. A man weighed down by secrets and battling forces within his own empire. He pressed the call button, steeling himself for whatever might come. Because tomorrow, if all went as planned, the board would find out exactly how far Adam Rochester was willing to go to protect the family they thought they could destroy. The next morning arrived bright and brisk, a sharp contrast to the tension surging through the corridors of the Royal Solaris Hotel. The final day of the investment summit was here. By evening, Rochester Innovations' fate would be sealed with official signatures, press releases, and celebratory toasts. But for Adam, that outcome seemed far from certain. He awoke in his penthouse, eyes gritty from too little sleep, and immediately checked his phone for updates. Beck's overnight report offered only meager solace. No direct threats or new suspicious sightings, but also no smoking gun to pin on Claudia or her allies. That left them all in a precarious position, knowing the enemy was close, yet lacking definitive proof. Adam pulled on a crisp suit with purposeful motions, stifling the swirl of dread in his stomach. 8 a.m., Isabella's jewelry. Pitched down in a tastefully appointed private salon on the mezzanine level, Isabella adjusted her portfolio, heart pounding. Despite the drama behind the scenes, She was determined to make a professional impression on Grant Forrester. She wore a simple but elegant blouse, her hair neatly pulled back to showcase the modest gold earrings she had designed herself. Lucy stood by, offering a steady presence of support. Meanwhile, across the salon, two of Beck's operatives mingled incognito, ready to intervene if any suspicious activity arose. "Try to relax," Lucy whispered. "He liked your initial presentation. Today's basically details, timelines, cost breakdowns. You've got this." Isabella forced a small smile. "I just have to keep my mind off everything else." But she couldn't forget that someone, board members or their henchmen, wanted her silent. The envelope message, the quiet phone threats. They wanted her to pitch her designs yet avoid drawing attention to the twins' connection to Adam. She didn't understand that contradiction, but she wouldn't let it stifle her ambition. She needed this chance. At precisely 8, Grant Forrester entered. He greeted Isabella with a polite nod, then sat with a folded newspaper under one arm. "Ms. Carter, nice to see you again." "Likewise," Isabella responded, voice steady. "Thank you for meeting me so early." He smiled, glancing briefly at Lucy, then turned his full attention on the sketches and prototypes Isabella arranged on the small table. She pointed out the delicate metalwork, the unique gemstone settings, describing her design philosophy with a passion that momentarily pushed aside her fears. Grant asked clarifying questions about her production capacity and timelines. He took meticulous notes, occasionally tapping them into a tablet. About 20 minutes in, the conversation took a promising turn. Grant ventured that if the prototypes met quality standards, his firm would consider underwriting a limited collection launch in key high-end boutiques. Isabella's pulse raced with excitement. This was the break she'd been longing for. She agreed enthusiastically, promising to deliver sample pieces for review within a month if she secured a suitable workshop. "Excellent," Grant said, leaning back with a satisfied nod. "I'm cautious with new designers, but your vision is exceptional, Ms. Carter, and I appreciate how your sketches strike a balance between innovative lines and timeless elegance. With the right marketing, I see potential." Relief poured through Isabella. She extended a hand, and Grant shook it warmly. "Thank you," she whispered, a genuine smile lifting her cheeks. Lucy gave her a discreet thumbs up from the corner. But at that very moment, a small commotion by the salon entrance made Isabella's heart flutter. One of Beck's operatives quietly signaled to Lucy, stepping forward as a short-suited man tried to slip inside. He held a staff badge, but his manner seemed shifty. Lucy intercepted him, eyebrows raised. "Can I help you?" she asked in a firm undertone. The man hesitated, glancing at the meeting in progress. "Apologies. I'm from the hotel event crew. Need to check lighting for a future session." Lucy, not fooled, blocked his path. "You can do that later. This room is booked for a private meeting." Grant, sensing tension, rose. "Is there an issue?" Isabella closed her portfolio, heat creeping up her neck. The last thing she wanted was to appear embroiled in conflict while trying to secure a sponsor. "Maybe we should wrap up. Mr. Forrester, I can follow up via email regarding the samples." Grant nodded, polite but puzzled by the sudden disruption. "Yes, of course. Thank you again. I'll be in touch within the week." As he exited with Lucy trailing him to the hallway, Isabella watched the suspicious man retreat under the watchful glare of Beck's operative. She hurriedly gathered her materials, pulse hammering. Someone might have been trying to eavesdrop or intrude. "This is insane," she muttered under her breath. "Why won't they just leave me alone?" One of the operatives came over, murmuring softly, "All clear now. Seems he was fishing for info. We'll report this to Mr. Beck." Isabella could only nod. She clutched her portfolio to her chest, every nerve on alert. The last illusions of a normal, stress-free pitch vanished. But at least she had a promising outcome, a potential deal with Grant Forrester. She wouldn't let fear rob her of that victory. 9:30 a.m. Adams Negotiations. Upstairs in a grand conference room, Adam faced off with a delegation of European investors, accompanied by Stefan and Claudia. The tension in the room was subtle but unmistakable. Stefan opened the session with a practiced smile, painting a picture of bright corporate horizons. Claudia chimed in with bullet points about market share. Adam watched them both warily, knowing they were likely complicit in behind-the-scenes intimidation, and forced himself to play the game. He delivered his part of the pitch with passion, describing the timeline for the energy storage product launch, the expected revenue growth. The investors seemed receptive, but as the final slides clicked through, Stefan cleared his throat. "Of course," Stefan said. "We must ensure that such an ambitious project is executed with board consensus and oversight. Rochester Innovations has always prided itself on unified leadership, yes, Adam?" Adam's jaw tightened. Stefan was poking at the very control that Adam had pried away from them. "Certainly, the board is integral to major strategic moves," Adam replied smoothly. "But with the expanded capital these investors bring, we'll expedite decision-making to stay agile." Claudia smiled, saccharine sweet. "Agile indeed, though the board's guidance has never slowed us, only ensured accountability." Adam forced a diplomatic nod, seething inwardly. This was their routine now, dropping hints about wanting more power, more oversight, while expecting him to capitulate out of fear that they'd expose his secret family if he resisted too hard. After the meeting, the European investors left, optimistic. Stefan and Claudia lingered. Once the door closed, Stefan pinned Adam with a meaningful look. "It's all coming together, wouldn't you say? We'll finalize the documents by this evening, hold a press conference." Adam stayed rooted by the projection screen. "Yes, we will, as long as everyone is operating in good faith." Claudia's gaze sparked. "Good faith? Of course. We want the best for the company, Adam. And for you. Let's not complicate things with any distractions." Adam clenched his fists behind his back, projecting an unruffled expression. "My focus remains on securing the deal. Distractions are the last thing I want." Stefan, clearly satisfied with this guarded exchange, patted Adam's shoulder as he passed. "We're counting on you. Don't disappoint us." The words dripped with double meaning. Then he and Claudia swept out, leaving Adam in the echoing quiet. He let out a shaky breath, fishing his phone from his pocket. Beck was already calling. "Tell me you found a direct link to them," Adam pleaded. "Not yet," Beck said, "but one of my team just reported an odd incident during Ms. Carter's pitch. Some man posing as event staff, possibly scouting or eavesdropping. We lost him after he ducked into a maintenance corridor. We're combing camera footage now." Adam's stomach churned. "They're not letting up. All right, keep me posted. We're running out of time." Hanging up, he stared at the door through which Stefan and Claudia had exited. Clearly, the conspirators were intensifying their watch on Isabella and him. Adam's patience for subtlety was wearing thin. 1 p.m., confrontation brewing. By early afternoon, the hotel's main ballroom bustled again for a lavish luncheon, where the press gathered in anticipation of the official announcement regarding Rochester Innovations' new energy tech investment. Adam circulated the room, fielding quick interviews, delivering rehearsed sound bites. Cameras flashed incessantly. Just before stepping onto a small stage for a media Q&A, he spotted Claudia on the sidelines, engaged in hushed conversation with a tall man who wore the badge of a local news outlet. As soon as Adam's eyes landed on them, Claudia's gaze snapped his way, and she gave a cool, knowing smile. A swirl of dread squeezed Adam's chest. Could she be feeding the journalist questions about his personal life? He refused to be blindsided. Pasting on a confident expression, he took the podium, opening the Q&A with corporate updates. Predictably, the first few questions were about the energy storage product, partnerships, and timeline. Then, a journalist from a prominent business channel asked, "Mr. Rochester, can you address rumors that members of your board have concerns about your focus and personal matters overshadowing the company's direction?" Adam felt the ground tilt. He glanced briefly at Claudia, who observed him with a faint smile. So they'd triggered the question. He took a measured breath. My focus remains unwavering. Rochester Innovations is stronger than ever. The board and I share a common goal, delivering excellence to our investors and customers. Personal matters, if any, do not impede that mission. The journalist pressed, but there's been chatter. Sources mention an unexpected arrival at this summit. Someone from your past? Any truth to that? Adam's heart pounded, yet he answered fluidly. I meet many associates and partners at industry events. That's part of my role. And if you're implying a scandal, I can assure you, any rumor is baseless. He cut the Q&A short after that, stepping off the stage with a practiced smile. The moment he reached the safety of the backstage area, he let out a shaky exhale. Claudia's strategy was clear. Leak hints to the press, stoke rumors of personal entanglements. They wanted to rattle him, force him to accept their terms quickly, or risk letting the rumor mill escalate. 3 p.m. Pressures mount back at Isabella's suite. A subdued atmosphere prevailed. Isabella had retreated to the bedroom, lying beside the twins who were napping. She stared at the ceiling, mind racing with apprehension. Lucy stood near the window, scanning the street far below. Adam texted, Lucy said softly. He's heading up soon. Seems the board is turning the screws. Isabella turned onto her side. We can't keep living like this. Every time I step out, I sense eyes on me. And the kids, they've done nothing, yet they're the leverage in all this. Lucy grimaced sympathetically. That's exactly why Adam's fighting so hard. Try to hang in there. Once the investment is signed, he'll have more clout to handle the board. You'll see. Isabella closed her eyes. I hope so. Because if the board goes public, the media will tear us apart. The children's photos might plaster every tabloid. People will say I trapped him for money or that he exploited an employee. It's all so twisted. Lucy gently squeezed her shoulder. We won't let that happen. Even if the story does come out, we'll control the narrative as best we can. It's not like you did anything wrong. Isabella nodded, but an uneasy knot lingered in her chest. Just then, Adam arrived, stepping in quietly to avoid waking the twins. Lucy gave him a terse nod, then slipped out to give them privacy. He went to the side of the bed, speaking in hushed tones. How are you holding up? She sat up, hugging her knees. Scared, angry, everything. Adam settled on the edge of the bed, brow furrowed. The press is nosing around, courtesy of Claudia. They asked me about a secret arrival from my past. I brushed it off. But it's only a matter of time before they push harder. Isabella swallowed. So what do we do now? Wait for Beck to find a silver bullet? Or do we go public ourselves and defang them? He dragged a hand through his hair. I'm torn. Beck's close to tracing calls, but still no smoking gun. The board's set on signing the deal tonight. If I yield to their demands, they might back off temporarily. But that means giving them more control and letting them keep blackmail material in their back pocket for whenever they want to manipulate me again. She placed a tentative hand over his. Then we don't yield. We can't live under that threat forever. He turned his hand to intertwine their fingers. I know, which is why I think we might have to do the opposite. Hit them head on. Beck's team can set a trap if we get them to articulate their threats directly. If we record them demanding board control in exchange for silence, that's extortion. We can ruin them. Isabella's eyes widened. That's dangerous. What if they sense a setup? That's the risk, Adam admitted. But I'd rather risk that than live under indefinite blackmail. The real question is, are you ready? Because if it goes wrong and they release everything to the press before we can spin it, you and the twins could be in the headlines tomorrow. A trembling breath escaped her. She thought about the twins, peacefully asleep behind them. She thought about the kind of life she wanted for them. Free from shame, fear, secrets. Meeting Adam's gaze, she saw that same fierce determination mirrored there. Let's do it, she said at last, voice quivering but firm. I don't want them holding this over us anymore. He squeezed her hand, gratitude shining in his eyes. "We'll plan with Beck. Force their hand to show how vicious they really are. Then we'll have everything we need to expose them." She mustered a shaky nod. "Yes, no more hiding." Adam stood, leaning down to press a gentle, impulsive kiss to her forehead. "I'll coordinate the trap. Meanwhile, watch your back. If they suspect we're fighting back, they might escalate." "Be careful," she whispered, heart thundering at the realization that they were about to engage in a high-stakes bluff that could either free them or destroy them entirely. He gave her one last look, a mix of resolve and an unspoken apology that things had come to this, and stepped out, quietly closing the door. As Isabella sat there listening to the twins' soft breathing, she knew there was no turning back. The noose was tightening one way or another. By nightfall, the conspirators would either be unmasked, or the entire world would learn about Adam's hidden family under the harshest possible spotlight. A hush fell over the Royal Solaris Hotel that evening, a deep sense of anticipation that stretched from the glittering ballroom to the discreet suites perched on the highest floors. Once the clock struck 6, the final wave of VIP investors began arriving, ready for a signature ceremony that would mark a historic moment for Rochester Innovations. Cameras were already rolling downstairs, capturing footage for the nightly news. Yet in a quiet meeting room, well away from the glamorous hustle, Adam Rochester stood with Isabella, Lucy, and a stoic-faced Beck, reviewing their plan in urgent whispers. The children remained safely in the suite with Suzanne, playing with blocks, mercifully unaware of the stakes that had soared to life or death in Adam's corporate world. "I'll lead Stefan and Claudia into the boardroom for what appears to be a pre-signing consultation," Adam said softly, checking that the wireless recording device Beck had provided was hidden snugly under his suit lapel. "We suspect at least one of them, or both, are behind the threats. They'll likely seize the chance to finalize their ultimatum. If they speak openly, we'll have it on record." Isabella, arms folded tightly across her chest, nodded, though her eyes shone with anxiety. "And if they don't speak plainly?" "Then we keep pushing," Beck interjected, his tone calm but decisive. "Adam, you'll steer the conversation. Pretend you're folding under pressure. Invite them to lay out exactly what they want. More board oversight, hush-hush about the children. Once they name their terms, we have evidence of blackmail. If they sense a trap and clam up, we pivot to Plan B. Plan B being a public statement we release on our own terms," Lucy said, finishing his thought with a solemn nod. "We tell the world about your kids and expose the intimidation tactics, even if we haven't pinned down the culprit completely. Better that than letting them paint their own narrative." Adam's hand found Isabella's, giving it a light squeeze. "I'm hoping it doesn't come to that. I'd rather keep the kids out of the press if possible." She forced a small, tight smile. "Whatever happens, I'm with you." Time was short. The investor signing was slated for 8 o'clock. If the board forced Adam to relinquish power by then, or threatened to leak the children's existence to the media, there would be no turning back. 7 p.m., lining up the pieces, Adam entered the boardroom first. It was a spacious chamber with a long mahogany table, flanked by tall windows that overlooked the city's evening glow. Stefan and Claudia arrived moments later, accompanied by a couple of other board members, quiet ones who usually followed the majority stance. At a glance, Adam guessed these extra eyes were here to ensure no hidden deals went on. They probably also wanted to witness Adam's supposed capitulation. "Adam," Stefan said in that polished tone that masked his underlying cunning, "I trust you're ready to finalize the plan for tonight's signing?" Adam gestured for them to sit. "I am. But we have an unresolved matter, the level of board involvement moving forward." Claudia settled into her chair, crossing her legs elegantly. "We've made our position clear. New capital means the board deserves renewed oversight." "Yes," Stefan added, eyes shining with the faintest smirk. "There can be no surprises, personal or otherwise." Adam steeled himself. He glanced to the corner of the room where Beck sat quietly as a supposed security advisor, there to protect the meeting from unauthorized intrusions. In reality, Beck was monitoring audio. If Stefan or Claudia made a direct threat or reference to blackmail, the wire beneath Adam's suit would capture it. Adam sank into his seat with feigned heaviness. "I'm aware, and I want to protect Rochester Innovations from any scandal." He took a breath, letting just a hint of vulnerability creep into his voice. "If I were to give you greater oversight, how would we ensure that certain personal matters remain strictly confidential?" Stefan slid an almost sympathetic look across the table. "That depends on how personal they are, Adam. If, for instance, the rumor about your fathering children with an ex-employee turned out to be true, that's quite a bombshell. We'd need strict NDAs, careful PR spin. The board would handle it, if we're properly empowered to do so." Adam's pulse hammered in his ears. They were so close to a direct admission. "Don't push too fast," he reminded himself. "Keep them talking." "I see. And if I refuse to expand the board's powers?" Claudia's brow arched. "Let's not waste time. You know the cost of refusal. We can't have a CEO embroiled in scandal. If you do refuse, certain rumors might slip out to the press, and we'd be forced to remove you for jeopardizing investor confidence." Stefan folded his hands. "So you see, Adam, it's not a threat. It's a practical measure. You help us maintain stability by stepping back, letting the board share more control. Then we promise no details of your private life will see the light of day." Adam's chest constricted. They had laid out the blackmail in plain words. He tried not to glance at Beck, but he was certain they were getting a crisp recording of every syllable. "Keep them going," he told himself. "All right, let's talk specifics," he managed, leaning forward with an air of resignation. "What exactly does stepping back entail?" 7:15 p.m. The confession. Stefan and Claudia exchanged triumphant glances. They launched into a list of conditions: a veto power for the board on new projects, control over certain budgets that Adam previously directed, more seats for them in executive committees. Adam listened, carefully feigning reluctant compliance. They even demanded that Adam sign a personal non-disclosure, ensuring he could never speak about board affairs outside official channels. "And in return," Adam said, swallowing, "you guarantee that no one finds out about the children." Claudia offered a thin smile. "Precisely. We have PR experts. If ever questioned, we'll bury the story. And of course, Ms. Carter's ties to you will remain discreet, so the children's existence never becomes a corporate liability." A hollow anger rang inside Adam's chest. The board had just confirmed their complicity in intimidation, dangling Isabella and the twins as bargaining chips. He resisted the impulse to lash out right then. Instead, he pressed lightly, "Would that also mean stifling certain whisper campaigns you or the others might have ignited?" Stefan's reply was chillingly pragmatic. "Naturally. We control the narrative, Adam. As soon as you sign our proposed agreement, we'll ensure the rumor mill goes quiet. Everyone keeps their dignity. Now, about your signature." He produced a folder, likely the official reorganization document they wanted Adam to sign before the final investor ceremony. Adam stared at it for a tense moment, heart hammering. This was the board's attempt to lock him down permanently. 7:20 p.m. The sting from the corner. Beck stepped forward. "Pardon me," he said mildly. "I just realized we haven't checked the hallway for potential eavesdroppers. Let me do a quick sweep." Stefan waved dismissively. "All right, but hurry." Beck slipped out, and in those few seconds, Adam mustered a cold, tight smile. He'd heard enough to confirm blackmail. The recording was done. They could move to the next phase. Before Stefan and Claudia could press him further, Beck popped back in, phone in hand, brow furrowed. "I'm afraid we have a problem. Claudia, Stefan, you might want to hear this." Adam's pulse leapt. The plan had been for Beck to signal them that the conversation was fully recorded, then provoke them into further incriminating statements. It was risky, but Adam trusted Beck's instincts. "What problem?" Claudia demanded, rising. Beck held up his phone. A voice recording played. It captured Claudia's statement from moments earlier. "If you refuse, certain rumors might slip out to the press. We'd be forced to remove you." Claudia blanched. Stefan's jaw dropped. The recording continued, highlighting Stefan's mention of burying the children's existence, ensuring media silence in exchange for power. Adam locked eyes with them, letting a wave of righteous fury show. "We recorded everything," he said quietly. "This is blackmail, and you've admitted it openly." Stefan sputtered. "You tricked us. This is entrapment." Adam shrugged, controlling the tremor in his limbs. "Call it what you like, but you threatened me, tried to force me to cede control or face exposure of my personal life. That's a crime, Stefan." Claudia's face twisted with anger. "You won't get away with this. We can spin the story that you set us up, paint you as manipulative." Beck calmly pocketed his phone. "We've got your extortion on tape. Attempting to blackmail the CEO in order to regain control of the company? I'm guessing the shareholders, not to mention law enforcement, will be very interested." Stefan's eyes darted around for an escape. "This will destroy Rochester Innovations, you fool. Investors will flee if there's a scandal." Adam stepped forward, bristling with a new sense of resolve. "No, Stefan. They'll flee from you, because the rest of the board and I will assure them that the blackmailers are gone. And the rest of the board isn't complicit, are they? I suspect they'll throw you to the wolves rather than go down with you." Claudia's hands shook. "If we release the story about your children first, the scandal will be pinned on you." Adam cut in. "I'm prepared for that. In fact, I might hold a press conference tonight, clarifying everything. My personal life might cause a stir, but the company's product and leadership remain solid. You two, on the other hand, have been recorded committing extortion. Good luck spinning that into a positive headline." 7:30 p.m. The fallout panic flickered across Stefan's face. "Wait, we can negotiate. Let's talk about an arrangement that keeps this quiet." Adam's voice turned ice cold. "After what you tried to pull on me and my family, absolutely not." Beck strode to the door, opening it. Two more individuals stepped in, colleagues from Beck's security team, each quietly filming with their phones to document any further outbursts. Stefan and Claudia recoiled. "We can do this the easy way," Beck said, gaze never leaving them. "You both resign from your board positions immediately, sign a sworn statement that you attempted to blackmail Adam, and step away quietly. Or we take all this evidence to the authorities and the press." Stefan shook his head, outraged. "You wouldn't—" Adam's gaze was steel. "Oh, I would. You crossed a line when you threatened my children. If you prefer, I'll walk out of here right now, deliver everything to the police and the press. Your choice." A crack of defeat appeared on Claudia's face. Her shoulders sagged. You set us up," she whispered, tone trembling. "Fine, we'll go. But you have no idea what storms you'll face for revealing this scandal." Adam's expression softened just a fraction. "I'll face any storm over living under your threats." Stefan, simmering with rage, reached for a pen with a trembling hand. He glared at Adam, then scrawled his signature on a piece of paper Beck had placed on the table, an immediate resignation letter that Beck's lawyers had prepared in advance. Claudia did the same, hurling the pen down afterward. "We'll see how long you hold your empire without us," she spat, voice shaking. Adam stood unmoving as Beck's security staff escorted them out. Another operative remained behind to gather any relevant items and confirm the boardroom was secure. Adam's hands shook with adrenaline. He met Beck's gaze, and Beck gave a nod of approval. "You did it," Beck said softly. "They're out." Adam exhaled a ragged breath. "We still have to deal with potential gossip, but at least they can't blackmail me anymore." 7:45 p.m. The hard truth. After the confrontation, Adam slipped away for a moment, pressing up against the corridor wall as a wave of emotional relief crashed over him. For months, maybe years, he had wrestled with unscrupulous board members, but never had they endangered something so personal. Now he had cleared the path, albeit dramatically. He retrieved his phone, dialing Isabella. She picked up, her voice tight with nerves. "Adam? Did it work?" He closed his eyes. "It's done. Stefan and Claudia resigned, caught on tape admitting everything. Their threats lose all teeth now. You're safe. The children are safe." A soft, audible exhale emerged on her end. Thank God. He leaned his head back against the wall. There might be repercussions, some scandal. We'll need to do a brief statement maybe tomorrow, so rumors don't spiral, but it'll be on our terms. Isabella's voice trembled with emotion. "I don't care about the headlines as long as we're not blackmailed anymore." He allowed a small, real smile. "Precisely. I'll handle the rest of the board. They'll distance themselves from Stefan and Claudia to preserve the new investment. No one wants to sabotage a multi-million-dollar deal. We'll come out the other side stronger." 8 p.m. A renewed future. Downstairs, the signing ceremony commenced. Cameras flashed as Adam, flanked by legitimate and newly supportive board members, signed the official partnership agreements with the European investors. Murmurs circulated about the sudden absence of Stefan and Claudia, but no immediate explanation was given beyond unforeseen personal circumstances. After the formalities, Adam took the podium for the final press address, standing tall under the bright lights. His voice rang clear as he announced Rochester Innovation's groundbreaking new venture with international backers. Applause rippled through the audience of journalists, who hung on every word about environmental impact and next-generation power solutions. But in the corner, Lucy and Beck stood protectively, ready to intervene if any reporter tried to corner Adam with personal questions. None did. Perhaps Stefan and Claudia, humiliated and outmaneuvered, had decided not to drop their final bombshell. For now, at least, Adam's secret stayed under wraps. Yet, as he finished speaking, Adam's eyes drifted to a hidden balcony above the crowd. Isabella watched from there, her expression a mix of pride and relief, the twins peeking out shyly, with Suzanne's gentle guidance. When Adam's gaze caught theirs, the older twin waved excitedly. Adam's heart lifted. He gave a slight, almost imperceptible nod. Stepping off the stage to more applause, he made a beeline for the backstage exit. Freed from the swirl of cameras, he hurried up the quiet staircase to the balcony. There, Isabella cradled the younger twin, while the older boy hopped in excitement. Lucy hovered just behind them with a grin. "You did it," Isabella whispered, tears brimming as Adam reached them. "You stood up to them." He let out a shaky laugh, leaning in to kiss her cheek before pulling the boys into a gentle, protective hug. "We did it," he corrected, voice thick with emotion. "None of it would have mattered if you hadn't stuck by me." The children giggled, absorbing the moment without understanding all its gravity. Lucy beamed as well. "Time to celebrate, right?" Adam glanced at Isabella, 1,000 thoughts tumbling through him, about the statement they might still have to make, about the future of their relationship, about the quiet life he hoped the twins could have. But for now, he was safe in the knowledge that the immediate threat had been neutralized. "Let's go upstairs," he said softly. "Spend some time together, like a real family. Tomorrow, we'll figure out the rest." Isabella's smile glowed with an unspoken answer, her eyes shining with cautious hope. This crisis had shown them all how fragile life could be when ruthless ambition met heartfelt loyalty. But it also proved that their bond, long hidden and unexpectedly rediscovered, was strong enough to stand firm against the darkest schemes. With the children clinging happily to them, Adam and Isabella left the hushed balcony, heading toward the sanctuary of their suite. The sounds of corporate chatter and camera shutters faded behind them, replaced by the simple warmth of belonging. Whatever challenges lay ahead, Whether the world learned of their family or not, they would meet them side by side, determined to forge a future free from secrets and threats. And after so many twists of fate, that was victory enough. If you enjoyed this story, don't miss the next one. Just click on the screen.